Let's jump right in. The first step is to set up an appointment with us on roarsteamafrica.com. It's easy. Just go to our website and pick a time that works for you. In this first meeting, we will discuss your goals and answer your questions about international real estate. And everyone's different. Some people are looking for a house they can retire to, some people are looking for a house they can move to, and some people are just looking for a great investment. Whatever your situation, we can help you turn Ghana from your dream to your home. In the second step, based on our conversation, we will provide you with a list of reputable developments that meet your needs and your budget. Every development we offer for sale has been personally toured either by myself or a member of our team and has undergone an extensive vetting process. And thanks to our partnership with Say So Global, we have over...
Okay, so welcome to the Reason Show. So today we're going to have a full conversations. So one of our a team which they live in Ghana, which called the Ross team, which they always make us so proud. So today, welcome to the Reason Show. I mean, this is your first time watching us here. We're having this conversation because it seems some people know something in Ghana which the people doesn't know. So today, welcome on the show. I'm going to have a conversation with the team. They call it the Royce team. And he's here to tell us more about Africa and Ghana specifically, because I've seen him around. He walking around Ghana, Africa, most of these countries, and it seems he got a lot of experience. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Ross.
Hey, it's great to be here. Glad to join you. Glad to join you.
Right. So today, I just want to have this conversation with you, which a lot of people are always asking, who is this man? It seems he knows more in Africa. What exactly does this man know which the people in Africa doesn't know? So that's why it got me interested to get you on board so that you will let us know the people of Africa, the young people. I mean, in fact, when you talk about entrepreneurship, how to start something, I mean, your interest in Africa and as a general. So a family, this is a Reason Show. So I got a man here. And then I want you to be on guard and be on the standby. Let me hear your comments. Any other questions, drop your questions and I will ask the questions for you. So you're welcome to the Reason Show again.
Hey, great to be here. Glad to join you.
Nice to meet you too. So what's really your name?
So I'm Bradley Roars. My full name would be Bradley St. Roars. So most people know us as the Roars team, but yes, Bradley St. Roars.
Right, fantastic. So let us know what is it about Ross? What's the meaning of Ross? Ross, what's their job?
Well, Roars. That's just my surname. So when we formed Roars team was actually back in 2002 when I was in college.
Okay.
And it was just a collection of my friends when we were working in the real estate industry in Baltimore City, of all places. It's a city just outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And we were able to establish a real estate practice. We mainly were buying up, fixing up, and selling houses. So I carried a bunch of real estate licenses to do that.
Okay.
And then later on, maybe like a decade later, we started a mortgage company. Now, about 5 or 6 years ago, we were brought on as consultants in Cote d'Ivoire.
Okay.
We consulted on the sales process and financing process. So we helped with different applications for financing. We acted as a liaison for African developers here in the Washington, D.C. area, which I'm at right now. I'm currently in our Washington, D.C. office.
All right.
And I was offered the opportunity to partner in several developments, some of which I'm a silent partner, some of which I'm not a silent partner.
Okay.
And most recently, we've been partnering with another company called Say So Global to bring more transparency to the African market, to bring financing options to the African market, and to make it so that the entire process is much more streamlined for individuals who want to purchase across every single price point.
Right. Okay. So that's fair. Now let's start this way. Today I'm going to take you to different corners. It's going to be a general conversation. So
Yeah.
Let's start from here. A lot of people, Ghanaians, are talking about it. They say you keep promoting Ghana. Is it really you are promoting Ghana or you are doing a business? And what's your secret about always talking about Ghana?
Well, the reason that I put some of these videos out, a lot of times it comes from the conversations that I'm having with people who are thinking about moving to Ghana. And they'll bring up some objection. And there is, for most of Africa, there's a lot of misinformation for individuals in the West. both people who are investing and people who just want to purchase a retirement home, or diaspora who just want to feel a connection to the continent. And so I felt that while I had this information, I didn't want to just talk the numbers, the dollars, and the cents. I do have a passion for the truth and talking about it, areas I've grown to care a lot about.
Right.
Originally, what am I doing in Africa is strictly business originally, but as with anything else, when you spend time in an area, you start to care for it more. You start to make a lot more friends in the area. And it hurts me a lot when I see misinformation, when people talk about stuff that is nothing more than a caricature. And I just want to say, hey, I'm on the ground. Here's what the reality is. Here are just the facts for it.
Right.
And so
Okay. So,
that's where I'm coming from.
right. Okay. So, family, please double tap your screen. The man is here. I think a lot of people are looking for this man because they always share your videos and talking about this man. Today he has joined us here. So, double tap your screen, share the page, and drop your comments. And I'm going to ask the question for you. So now let me also ask you how long have you in fact I just want to know for how long have you deal with Ghanaian market system, like dealing with Ghanaians when it comes to businesses? For how
5 years
long?
now. It's been just over 5 years.
5 years. Okay, so
Actually, just
now,
right after the year of return was announced, actually.
right, right. So now let's start from here. You were talking about some disinformation or misinformation
Yep.
campaign that a lot of people are doing against Africans. Tell me, what type of, in fact, misinformation that got you to, in fact, pay attention to Africans? What are some of this misinformation?
Well, some people don't realize how wealthy Africa is, they don't realize the educated population that they would have access to if they were doing business in the region. They don't know how safe the area is. People have a belief that there's instability when I've shown that Europe has been less stable in the last 40 years than Ghana has been, and West Africa in general. So everything we want to look at the healthcare system. I look at everything objectively. Like if there was a place where I would criticize, I would criticize. So I'm not just cheerleading. But when people were asking about healthcare, I wanted to bring the right healthcare information to them. When they were asking about safety, I brought that information to them. When they asked about life expectancy, I wanted to bring that to them, and economic opportunity. And that's been a real core of the message we've tried to bring
Oh,
out.
okay, let me come here. Sorry to interject you. Let me come here. You were saying there's money in Africa. If you say there's money in Africa, what do you mean? In what way?
So traditionally, when people say that, well, Africa has always been wealthy. It's always been the wealthiest continent. Just full stop on that one. They've had the most access to resources. They've had the best climate. So Africa historically, going back down, King Mansa was the wealthiest person who's ever lived in history. So there's always been wealth there. But so when I'm talking about wealth, I'm talking from more of a Western viewpoint, which
Okay.
is, can I start a company there? Can I start a tech firm? Can I start a logistics firm? And in that regards, that's where I've said that it's become very wealthy, because if you're a business person, there is an opportunity for you to contribute in Africa in a way that is not just exploitive. You can be collaborative.
Okay, so let's stay here because a lot of Ghanaian youth, and in fact, in Africa as a general, the young people have lost it to the politicians. It's like they have lost hope. They don't trust the system. Now, how do you see the African youth as compared to the current system that you are saying that it contains a lot of money? How do you see the youth?
So there's a disparity right now. So the African youth have not yet received the benefit from the growth in manufacturing and GDP for the most part. There's young people in Accra who are doing very well for themselves, but a lot of the wealth distribution has been made along political lines more than anything else. What I believe the next transition is going to be is for businesses that are less attached to the government to start developing in areas not necessarily centered to Accra, but really if we go to like Tima, Kamasi,
Okay.
I'm expecting those areas to start developing and reflecting much more of a prosperous economy. I'm looking for a banking system that is going to be more inclusive. do tend to get a lot of calls in a given day. And
Okay,
I did
okay.
throw this right on my phone, not the TikTok live that I should have. So please forgive me, everyone in the
No,
audience
no.
for
Okay,
that.
don't worry.
Let me just
Just
get this stable
fix
here.
yourself. Yeah. All right. So,
And so I do see wages going up,
uh-huh.
and I predict over the next 5 years that the youth of West Africa are going to see an increase in wages. I do believe that.
Right. So let's come back here. In terms of creating jobs opportunity for the young people. In fact, in many countries in West Africa, they seem to wait for the government to create this opportunity, and that's why the government also not doing much. So there's a lot of job scarcity in the country. Um, do you think the young people should wait for the government to create job opportunities, or still it is the government burden to create jobs?
No, and I think it's an old thinking. So in Ghana specifically, if we even go back to the year 2000, something around 85% of the governments were directly associated or owned by the government. And there was a divestiture that did happen, but still the idea is that the jobs need to flow from one central point. That's what the mindset has been. However, what I see happening in the next 5 years is that the youth are going to take it upon themselves to form their own companies, to start to create the jobs organically. I mean, if you go down any of the highways, if you look at what's on the billboards right now, it's the billboard ads are for construction materials. I mean, when you're yeah, if you're going out to Cape Coast, you're going to see nonstop. We've got the best building materials, everything. That's a country that is developing and is going through a period of wealth creation. And the analogy that I have used in describing this to investors is simply to look at China, where
Okay.
China's GDP per capita, if adjusted for inflation, if we were to go back to the year 1990 or even 1995, was lower than where Ghana is right now. And the developmental path that they've gone through has basically mirrored what we've seen in China. And what happened in China, if we were to use that as a historical precedence, was that there was about a 10-year lag between the development of infrastructure, manufacturing, and value added jobs and the wages rising to meet that. So there is a lag period that, I mean, you can't expect it to be instant. However, what ended up happening by around 2010 to 2015 in China was suddenly we were seeing a lot more wealthy individuals being created in China than in the Western world. That did happen. Although there's been a slight recession in China recently, that was the case.
Okay.
What I anticipate that we will see is you're going to start to see a lot of core industries form in Ghana that you're just not expecting. The same way a Chinese person wouldn't have expected that we would be
Right. Right.
manufacturing cars and high end electronics. Bear in mind, China was never thought of as a particularly sophisticated country. It was like Japan was the top, and then way down here was
Right.
China.
Right.
And essentially, out of nowhere, China came out and became the largest economy in the world. Ghana is smaller geographically than China, so I don't see them growing to to a China level in terms of
To
the
the Chinese level.
overall.
Yeah.
But on a per capita basis, I mean, absolutely, we're seeing development around infrastructure wise. I mean, if we look at just to the north, Burkina Faso, they are currently working on nuclear power. They were working in a collaboration with Russia on that. I anticipate that the energy needs in West Africa are going to be greatly met by nuclear and solar power over the next 10 years, which is going to be a key driving force in value added activity. If you're going to build anything in the world, I can't think of a better place to start establishing the logistics than West Africa. And
Right.
that
Right.
includes Liberia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, if they can get their act together. But what I like about Ghana over Nigeria, with all respect to Nigeria is just so big that
Right.
it's actually hard for them to make adjustments because they have
Right.
so many different factions that are going to be kind of going back and forth. Ghana
Right.
is a much more, it's kind of the right size. It's about the size population wise of like a California in America. So I think it's the right size where they're going to be able to make key adjustments. As far as like the different people who may potentially be running Ghana, there I don't speak on Ghanaian politics because
Yes.
just because I'm not there, that's not my place to speak on the
I
specific
understand the
issues.
situation. Yeah. Mm.
But looking at the platforms, there is somewhat unanimous that they want to move to value added activities, which is in line with what we believe is going to lead to a more wealthy and prosperous Ghana, regardless of which direction they go. We believe that all parties are aligned in the right direction.
Right, right. So let's stay here because in America, like your country, in fact,
Yep.
the private sector drives the economy, and the government support that. So as you've been moving around at the African countries, now we are talking about the youth systems here when it comes to job creation opportunity. Do you think creating businesses or entrepreneurship will move the African economy?
I mean, it absolutely will. It's just a question of when. Because entrepreneurship is a skill, it's something that culturally takes a little bit of time to develop. Because, I mean, in the year 2000, there was not space for entrepreneurs in the way that there is today. However, what we do have in Ghana is, and West Africa in general, is the fastest growing college educated population in the entire world. We are making more educated people who are capable of doing high end tasks than practically everywhere else in the world. America, in many ways, is going the opposite direction, where they've lost control of the cost of education, and individuals are sometimes not really receiving the correct training to be integrated into a modern economy. Think about someone who gets a philosophy degree. With all due respect to people who would study that, a lot of Americans are being educated in fields that are just simply not going to lead to long-term productivity. In Ghana, the culture, the mindset is a lot different. People who are going to college are much more serious about what they are doing. My understanding is it's almost a little bit of a torture to the people who are going to the University of Ghana because they're so hard on them. But think about this. If you want a workforce and you need an educated workforce, would you want someone who's kind of been through the fire, like a population that's hungry, where you know that they've topped the bottom? If you get a graduate that they are completely 100% on board, they're ready to work those 8-12 hour days. Or do you want to go to maybe a more entitled country, which is going to cost 8 to 10 times as much in America? I think it's an easy decision if you're an entrepreneur that you want to have access to the best talent at the most reasonable price, which with the highest work ethic. And I think that Ghana is offering that. And I think that overseas businesses are going to want to get a piece of that very soon. They actually have already started that, to be frank.
Right, right. So now, I mean, that's fantastic. Now, but let me ask this: I know in your country, in America, when somebody wants to start doing business or start to establish or create some businesses, in fact, the systems in America, it seems to be more supportive when it comes to credit system, financial systems, and all these government systems. But as you experience in Ghana, like in any African countries, we don't have credit systems, we don't have financial systems, like interest rates are so high like that. Um, do you think, or like if I want to ask you, do you think we need money before we can start businesses in Ghana?
No, the
No.
answer is no. And I'm going to give and I'm going to give you the perspective as
Okay.
I've owned a business for over 20 years in America. It is true that in terms of incorporation, it is a little bit easier in America. I mean, America is the easiest place to incorporate a business officially in the entire world. They have
Okay.
streamlined that quite a bit. And I think
Okay.
other countries should replicate that from America.
Okay.
Now, when we get past that point, the costs associated with doing business in America can be prohibitively high, particularly if you require retail front. So the rent that we have is significantly higher to run our business. It's just way more expensive. The taxes that we pay on every single phase of doing business is significantly higher. And as far as access to lending and liquidity, contrary to popular belief, this is not as available to small businesses as you may think. So if I wanted to go out and get $1 million to expand operations, there's going to be very strict terms on that may not be conducive. And as a result, I don't hold any debt in my business whatsoever. And there's a certain strength to doing that. And by not having the debt available, I think that creates much more of an even playing field. Now, if my competition was, say, Amazon, the cost of Amazon can basically raise as much money as they want to, and it costs them maybe 1 to 2% interest rate. It's essentially free money for them. So they could buy out every asset and compete against me if they chose to come into the real estate sphere. So I would be at a much bigger disadvantage being in America because although I do have access to money theoretically, other people have even better access to it. And if I get too big, they could, boom, crush me. In Ghana, it's much more of a level playing field. I would much rather be in a situation where banks are not lending money to my competition, and thus I don't need to do those moves. And so I can live almost entirely debt free within the business world. Pros and cons to both sides, but there's certainly some positives to having a population that is debt free and a business community that's debt free.
Right. So, I mean, this is a conversation that in all platforms of African platforms, Ghanaian platforms, the youth are always crying and talking about it, that we don't have opportunities, we don't have this, we don't have that, and we need for funds to start business. But you are saying in Ghana, it is easier to make money more than in America. So let me ask you this. Most Ghanaians are now moving out to look for a greener pasture in somewhere like in your country in America. Do you think that's option to leave the country and go out there to find capital and come back to build businesses?
It's a brilliant idea. Now, the advantage to America is, and the Western world in general, is that if you're starting from nothing and you need to make money, you can do that more easily in the Western world than just about anywhere. Okay, that's bar none. If you took everything away from me, I could rebuild in America where I may not be able to do that in Ghana. However, once you get over that first hurdle and you do have the money available to set up a storefront, where you do have the money to conduct business, and you have that initial capital, Ghana is going to present better opportunities. And also, it comes down to where you're going to spend your money. So, if you make, let's say you're investing, let me use a round number, $1 million, and you have a choice between 10% return on investment in America or 10% in Ghana. The question that you would ask is, well, where's your money going to go when you actually go to spend it? In America, maybe you can get a small house with that money. Maybe you can do a few things, pay the bills. In Ghana, you can live a significantly better life with that same investment. And I believe that's the mental calculus that more of the diaspora are going to have. But it's like anything else. I think a lot of business people or business-minded individuals are going to leave Ghana, or they will leave Nigeria or West Africa, and they'll come to the Western world. They'll develop the capital necessary where they could come back to the continent, and then they just won't do it because they just get comfortable, as anyone would when you spent 10 to 15 years in an area. However, those who do make the jump back, I think that there is so much wealth waiting for them that I think it's going to be, as more and more people do it, I think it's going to open the floodgates.
Right, right. So, you see, sometimes I keep watching your scenes and your shots on TikTok, and you see a lot of Ghanaians always praising. They will ask, "Who is this man? What does this man see that we don't see?" Now, let me see this. Your experience in Ghana, in all the African countries, how do you see the educational level? That's is most important. It's a crucial role when it comes to building or raising people's standards. So, how do you see the educational systems in Ghana, which raise the people to come to the next marketing world?
So, I mean, as most individuals who are educated in Africa, who are properly educated, so, and this would extend out to Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria. One of the feedbacks that we've had, that transition again, apologies, I will get a million phone calls. Don't worry about that.
I know, we
I'll
understand.
actually put
It's
this
such a
one, don't
busy
beep
man. Yeah, we
mode for a
understand
second.
that. Yeah.
Now I'm here for you guys.
Right.
They've all said that, oh my gosh, it's so much easier when I've come to the Western world. They feel like they're almost bored when they come to American schools. And from my standpoint, if you're saying, where would I feel more comfortable with my kids being educated if I want them performing at the top level, America versus an academy in Ghana? I would say an academy in Ghana. It's absolutely no question for me. There may be networking advantages to putting them in the wealthiest school in Washington, D.C. There's advantages to that. But if I'm just looking at, I want them to be able to speak multiple languages, perform well in math, statistically, objectively, Ghana schools are going to perform better because frankly, the teachers can be harder on the students than they ever could be in an American school. Bear in mind, if we're going to academies in America, we're paying the bills, so the teachers are going to be a lot lighter on the kids, not push them too hard because they don't want to make the parents upset. They don't care in Ghana. Do you think they care? They're because they know that
Right.
the parents, if the kids complain,
Uh-huh.
the parents are just going to double down on and support the teacher. It's the opposite in America, and I think that's leading to a better educated population in Ghana. It may not be reflected because of economic realities, but eventually, if you're saying who's educated right now more properly in the fundamentals, of course it's Ghana. There's no question.
So, based on your experience, you are saying Ghanaian educational system is like it educates the people properly than in America.
100%. Yeah, I mean, there's no question about that. I've seen the coursework. So just to, if anyone, I'm sure a lot of the audience right now is African, so they already know this, but um, the standards in mathematics just at a higher level. I see kids who are graduating in America, they just don't have basic math skills. Well, they just message this person.
That's right. Right. So, I think, folks, I kindly drop your comments, and then you can, double tap your screen so that if we want to get more questions for the team here. So, let me hear from you. Let me hear from you.
Well, okay. So, are we waiting for questions from the audience? I
Okay.
can certainly
So,
wait.
now the next question still remains on human development and building the people to a certain level, like they can be in competition with the American system, whatever. Now, let's say you live in Kumasi and Accra. How do you see the human development level, like in terms of, social lifestyles and everything, as compared to people living in America? Do you see them as low standard people or poor people, or as the world projects every day, like Africans are third world countries?
No,
There's no. How do you see that?
I mean no. If you're talking about an educational level, once we all sit at the same chalkboard. The only difference is a chalkboard or a whiteboard. So we're all learning the same thing. The students are more disciplined in Ghana. And again, I'm not trying to completely bag. There's really great and amazing students in America. There's great teachers. And there's a lot, they've done a lot of things that I think were very successful. But if we're just going to generalize on this one, um, I would never imagine, for instance, that we would have to have metal detectors going into a Ghanaian school. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong,
Uh-huh.
but I wouldn't worry about my kids being the victims of violence or school shootings or weird stuff being taught to them, behind my back. Like, I don't worry about that with Ghana. I would have to be very cautious in America. It's unfortunate, and most likely that wouldn't happen, but it's going to be a worry as a parent.
Okay. Right. Let me take you back to this question. A lot of people always keep asking this question, like business exploitations, foreigners are taking advantage of the system because of
Mhm.
our geopolitical systems. Let me ask you, based on your experience in African countries like Ghana, do you see the business exploitation by foreign companies?
100%, all the time. Yeah, I
Really?
think a lot of the businesses are exploitive. I think a lot of the businesses do underhanded deals to basically, particularly in the raw resources world, I think that they are passing money to people overseas within government, and I believe that they are working to the detriment of West Africa. I think there's a lot of companies. I'm not going to call them out here
Yeah,
because I still have to do business in the area, but
exactly.
you all can figure out who I'm talking about. And my test for that is, where does the money go? That's my number one test if a business should exist in a country and if they're contributing or not. So if a business starts to create jobs and if the flow of capital is coming into the country, I think that's a net positive. When we're selling houses to the diaspora, every time we sell a $250,000 house, all of that goes into the local economy. It's all being reinvested to build the next development. It's all going out to workers' salaries. However, if you were to come and pay a certain amount so you can pool resources out, well, you're making Ghana in any country poorer. So that's the real test: is the money coming in or is the money going out? And it's very simple, and that'll get you 99% of the time to whether a business is good for a country or not.
Right. Now, let me pick this question from comment section and ask you, as one the first day you entered Ghana. Somebody's asking, a country with bad rules, how can investors make money? As you been investor.
Okay, yeah, easy. You buy developments right on the edge where they don't have the roads, and you wait for the roads to come, and then your properties are worth a lot more money. That's I've given people the secret. Look where the gas stations get built. If you ever see a gas station get built, the real fancy, nice new ones that we have, they look like $1 million, and they really cost that much. When you start seeing those on a dirt road, you know the money's coming in that way because those people were keyed in. The oil guys always know where things are going. Um, as far as roads, though, I mean, like it's a legitimate thing, though, right? Because logistically, to have a fully functioning economy, you need to get people and materials from point A to point B. And that's just the reality. A lot of times, the reasons that people spend so much to be in Osu or Continents,
Mhm.
as opposed to being, like, say, in East Legon Hills, where we have our development, is just how easy it is to get in and out to the economic areas. Depending on the partnerships that they make, because Cote d'Ivoire has been doing a lot with this, and they've been doing that successfully. As the road infrastructure branches out further and further, a lot of areas that maybe you aren't thinking of as economically viable will suddenly become major hubs. And if you were to look at any of the places right now between Kamasi and Accra, once our full infrastructure is in there, every single place there is going to be an economic zone. That whole line is going to be an economic zone. Where can you make money? Run a business where all the materials and all the goods and services are flowing on. And that would be my advice. And people say, what business should you get into? You don't have to be in real estate. Be in logistics. Be in technology. Be in anything that's value added, and you're going to have long
So,
term
so,
success in
so
Ghana.
that was the next question that a lot of people want to hear from it. Let's say you are an advisor to a Minister of Economics or Development or whatever. Let's say somebody asks you, in what 5 business areas that you would recommend for people to, the young people to get there and they can make
Yeah,
money?
I would say, well, first off, we have a housing shortage in Ghana, regardless, particularly in affordable housing that has access to economic zones. That's our first shortage right now. So I would say real estate's a good providing housing. That's always going to be up there. Second is going to be anything that works with infrastructure development, whether that is electrical infrastructure, water and sewage infrastructure, roads and transportation infrastructure. Those are great areas that you would want to be in. A third one I would say is in logistics, which is the coordination of goods and services to key areas. Fourth, I would say being in the technology field. So as we transition worldwide into greater use of tech, individuals who are able to best implement that tech in a way that supports businesses and supports individuals, I think is going to do extraordinarily well. And lastly, I'm going to say in financial services industries, because again, as the wealth in terms of Sadie grows among the middle class, there's going to be a growing need for individuals who are going to want to have life insurance. They're going to want to be able to have retirement accounts. They're going to want to be able to invest their money locally. So they'll want to go to like a Republic Bank and be able to invest in that bank and see that money is going towards developments within the country. So those are going to be the 5 areas. I could list a lot more, but if you said 5, those are the
Yeah.
first 5 that come to
Uh,
mind.
okay. Thank you for that. But let me also ask this question. Those diaspora people, the Ghanaians who lived abroad, like in America, would you advise them to go back to their country and rebuild their country, or go back and give what they have to serve their country? Would you advise them?
Well, it depends on their circumstances, of course. Everyone's an individual. If you're saying from a pure financial standpoint, would it be in their interest to do so? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the best you're going to do in America, unless you're an established business person, is just throw money into the stock market and hopefully it goes up. But it's out of your control. But if you come back to Ghana, a lot more stuff comes within your control. You can build a business. You can be on the ground level. So it depends on really their ambition and what they want to accomplish. From a patriotic sense, should they come back to their home country? I think there's an argument for that. Come back and help the country that made you. That there's an argument for that. But primarily, I'd say if you want to have a better retirement, if you want to be able to have a better upside in terms of starting businesses and a better lifestyle, I'd say I would give great consideration at least.
Right, right. So one of your videos, you were talking about. life expectancy ratios, which you compare, is more far than what people in America. But a
Yep.
lot of Ghanaians also think when you live in abroad, I think it seems you have a comfortable life, which you grow more than people living in Ghana or in Africa. Why do you do that video? What's your point by doing that video?
Yeah, so when we're selling a lot of properties to the diaspora who are older, and the first number that they will see when they're looking at West Africa, when they go on Wikipedia, they'll say the life expectancy is so low, and the reason that's going to go in their head is it must be that the healthcare is so bad, or that something's just going wrong in the area, and they'll have a lower life expectancy if they decide to retire in Ghana. That's the logic. I've spoken to them. I know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
What the reason I've made several videos on this topic is that they don't calculate life expectancy in Ghana or Nigeria or anywhere in Africa in the same way they calculate it in Europe or America or the entire Western world. They calculate it differently. And the core reason for this is what they call reported infant mortality. So what they do in it's not a pleasant topic, but I'll bring this up, is that when there are stillbirths or there are abortions, those are often counted as an infant mortality at 0 days. That is not counted that way in the Western world. And one of the things that I found when we did our research was when we just took infant mortality off the table, because they're calculating it completely. You can't even compare it. Every OBGYN journal says it's messed up. They're doing it the wrong way. This is not me. These are like the doctors and scientists are saying that. But I am a statistician. So when we take that off the table, what I found was that the life expectancy was going up 20 years. And when we make an adjustment for demographics, because there's an argument that Asian people live longer than everyone else, right? Something like that, right? But when we looked at people of African descent in America versus people of African descent in Ghana, individuals of African descent in Ghana were living 3 years longer. And that may seem counterintuitive because people think, well, don't they have all this great medicine in America? Yeah, they got some great medicine, but they also have one of the most unhealthy lifestyles in the entire world. And what drives life expectancy more than anything else is the BMI of the general population, the body mass index, how fat they are. Fat people don't live long.
That's right. You have a point. You have a point.
So an individual who is eating processed foods in America is going to have a much greater likelihood of being a higher BMI, thus being obese, and thus dying between the ages of 60 and 70. This is just factual at this point. Whereas an individual in Ghana who has a normal BMI, something 25 or less, meaning you don't have a big belly or a small belly, right? You're going to live into your 80s, 90s. And you could go to any village. There's old people everywhere. They're everywhere. It's not people don't just randomly fall over. Everyone says to me, my grandma's 90, my grandma's 80. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
They're at a healthy weight. And I do think that the Western world kind of doesn't want that brought up because it does undermine a lot of talking points, right? Like the idea that the Western medicine isn't keeping people alive as long as they say it is, and the only way that they can make their life expectancy look higher is by gaming the numbers. That says a lot about the medical, because they're spending a lot of money on medicine. Shouldn't everyone be living to 90 in America? Shouldn't it be like unlimited life expectancy just about? But it's not. And I think a reason for that is the medical industry. They make money on sick people. I think, you can go down many rabbit holes on this.
Right.
But the medical industry does not get paid if people get healthier. They get paid if people get sicker.
Right. So, I mean, this is an insightful revelation. And please, if you just join us, we are having a conversation with the Ross team, and they do investment in Africa, most of these Ghanaian African countries, and I really want to have this conversation with him because a lot of his videos seems to promoting Africa, Ghana. He always talking about Ghana, but he's from America. He lives in America, and he always been in Ghana. So I really want to know his intent in Africa, and he's also telling us what exactly the do's and don'ts, what he have seen in Africa. So, Mr. Brad, let me ask you this: in this dispensation, which is that we are in a global village, we consist of information, the AI. Do you think these so-called upper hand countries like the global economy use the media to exploit or to destroy the African future? How do you see the media playing roles in Ghana or Africa?
I see the media as being an extension of the financial industry in the Western world. I think that they do this very subtly, and I do think that they try to disparage Africa as much as they can without being too obvious about it. So, by way of example, when you grow up and you're seeing TV, and anyone who's been in the Western world has seen this, that they'll run commercials showing poor Africans. They call it "Save the Children," and every time you turn on the TV, here's a starving African. Here's a starving. I'm sitting there. So you see, so you have all of this. You have this constant knowledge, or this constant barrage of poverty in Africa, and they push this forward. Now it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance when a person goes to Lagos, when they go to Accra, when they go to Abidjan, they go to Freetown, and you say, wait a second, this is not what I was told in the media. And also, one of the things that they do in the Western world is they like to amplify the problems in Africa, but downplay the success. Anyone in the comments, when have you seen a news story that's really talking about positive economic developments? When have they talked about salaries going up? When have they talked about logistics shifting and becoming more sophisticated? Tell me if anyone's seen it. Please correct me on this. But the second that a foreign minister takes a bribe, they get on there and they just tell oh my gosh, here's another instance of African corruption. Never mind that it was a Western company that was involved with the corruption. They never say that part. They never say that there was a Western component to that. But they will hammer the worst parts of Africa, and then they'll just forget about all the great things. I think that's by design. You can't say that's not by design.
Right. So, like let's say something like let me take it back to history. Like in you see the broadcast of the media, this so-called Western media or traditional media, which is the BBC, CNN, and it's like they always use the media to send a certain level of propaganda to destroy or not to let the people be aware of what they have, like the resources or how good their economies look like. And in fact, the media continuously pushing an ideology. You've been in America and you see the Western style of their propaganda or their style of way of power dominance. How do you think the Africans should respond to these media games?
I think that it's going to take. I think they need to start actually promoting themselves, and I think they
We need
to
to
get ahead
start
of the
promoting
issues.
ourselves, right?
Absolutely. The if in the absence of a counter message, any propaganda is going to work. It just is. If they don't say, if Africa doesn't say anything about itself, I could say it's undeveloped. I could say that there's nothing but crime and war over there. And if there's no pushback, then the message is going to get through, and Africa is going to continue to be viewed a certain way. Now, I don't think that Africa should necessarily, or the African nation should sit there and look for the approval of the West. I think it's not, they have to push back at the narrative insofar as it stops a little bit of the exploitation. But as much as anything else, they need to promote their country to their own people. And I think that the youth of Africa, perhaps they don't see economic opportunity because they consume Western media. And the West has told them how bad they have it out there.
The youth of Africa consume more from the Western media.
Absolutely. So if you've been told, oh my gosh, look how great it is over here in America, and look how bad you have it here, you're gonna have a youth that doesn't want to invest in their own country because all the media that they've consumed has shown them that. Oh, if I could only get to America, if I could only get to the UK, then my life would be so greatly improved. And they're so focused on that, they're not focusing on the country that they're in right now. And this is what happens when the government doesn't push back, or they're passive in pushing back against propaganda.
So it kind of like it boils back to leadership to pay attention to the surroundings in order for safeguarding their citizens, like the Americans are doing, the Chinese are doing. I have time to being in China, and they find all means to cut off any Western media like Facebook, Instagram, and all that, and they are able to control their own citizens to suit their own narrative. So, based on your analysis, it seems we as a people also have to find a way to safeguard our own destiny. But in this case, it seems the African economy is being roasted or being controlled by IMF, World Bank. Is it advisable for a country to depend on IMF and World Bank than to create or generate something for themselves?
Block their phone numbers. That, if you want my belief, block their phone numbers, close their offices down. If you want my actual advice on this one,
Oh my goodness! Then we need you as an advisor to Ghanaian president.
like
We need that as an advisor.
now, but in order to do this, so it's an easy thing to say, right? But what do we need to do in order for that to happen? We would need to make sure, because we still have needs of financing government activities. We still need to be able to maintain our balances financially. And so that starts with developing domestic banks, allowing those banks the time to finance projects. When you're doing a major road project, it's the easiest thing is to go IMF, give me $1 billion. Great. Now every time you make interest payments on that $1 billion, it's leaving your country. But if it's a domestic bank, what happens when you're paying that interest payment out? It goes to the bank, which then goes to a Ghanaian investor who's from the country, who then spends the money in the community. And now the banks can be developed. And one of the problems with, I've talked to Echo Bank, Republic Bank, all these guys, I know them, right? And I'm not going to say anything that's confidential here, but the general frustration with people who want to do large infrastructure loans who are Ghanaian bankers is that the second they put a loan package together, someone from the IMF is going to come in with a 0% or 1% loan or something like that. Or it was too good to be true. And it's just going to push them out of the market so that they can't develop as a company, as a lending institution. In economics, we call this actually a term for this. We call it flooding.
Okay.
If you want to look this up, it's called flooding. And what that means is if you want to prevent an industry from developing in an area or a country, what you can do is you can just dump the product that they're trying to develop for free long enough that they go out of business. And it's easy to understand. Like imagine you were making clothing in Ghana, right? Let's just say you're a clothing manufacturer, and we wanted to wipe out the clothing industry. Well, what could we do in the Western world? Just go ahead, get a whole bunch of used clothes from your citizens, just dump that on there, suck up all the demand for clothes so that company goes out of business. And if you wonder why they have those donation boxes and they dump off all the clothes to African countries, now you have a reason for it. But the same concept works in the finance world. It's the same exact concept. You don't want Africa to be self-reliant. So what do? Whenever there's a major project, you offer loans that, at least on the short term, are very nice, that keep the African lenders from developing, the banks from developing, which keeps the people from being able to invest in their own country. And then once those lending institutions have been beat down enough, then you roll out the high interest rates. It's a bait and switch thing.
Right. This is awesome. And I sometimes easy when you check global systems. I'm just want to ask. I will ask you this question about globalization. When you check this global stage, they will say see the muscles of China, see the muscles of European Union, and then America. But yet, due to globalization, they will put America, Ghana, Chinese on the same boxing ring. It's like putting Mayweather in the boxing ring and putting you, bro, in the same boxing ring. Mayweather automatically going to beat you, going to destroy you. But in globalization,
I don't think I'd last one. I don't think I'd last half a round with Mayweather with money.
Second. But in the globalization, it seems the Chinese can be put in the same boxing ring with Ghana. Do you think the world is treating the African or the third world, so-called third world country fairness when it comes to globalization?
Well, it depends on how does Ghana protect itself, right? So Ghana, if China is Floyd Mayweather, I am not Ghana.
Yeah.
Ghana is going to be more like an Oscar de la Hoya. Like they have a fighting chance. And then the reason for that is the ECOWAS region and really the AU in general. They have the keys to the castle in terms of the resources. because you can't do anything in economics if ultimately, no matter how much financial equations you have there or how much money you can print, none of it matters if you don't have stuff, if you aren't building things.
Uh-huh.
So all that Ghana has to do to compete is just value
Whoa.
add locally.
Whoa.
Um, if you do that, like, what's the counter? They're going to print a bunch of money. It doesn't matter. You've already got the stuff. They have to come to you for the product. That's how I would be developing is create the products, create everything domestically. Once you've protected your value chain, then you go out there. But yeah, you can't compete with someone who already has the resources. It's not
Yeah.
possible.
So I think these are some of the issues that it seems we don't have a direct structure to re-educate the young people in Africa. In fact, most of these young people in Ghana, they have no clue when it comes to global systems and global structure. So it all comes to in a certain way, which you can see that it has crippled the economies of Ghana because the more the influx of the foreign investors and foreign dominations, the people cannot witness what they have. So like you are telling us, people can create this. You can go to the bush, create markets. It's a strategy. It's like we are not aware. The people are not aware. I mean, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. In terms of job wealth creation, I mean, do you think people can live with like low standard and still have a wealth creation like our standards are low. I mean, we don't have services and products and services, and we still want to create wealth.
I can give some pushback on that, right? Because in terms of maintaining a standard of living, I mean, the fundamentals are all there. So to have a good standard of living, you need to have housing, you need to have access to food, to medicine, and you need to have an educated population, and you need capital equipment to do value add to be more efficient. Ghana already has all those pieces of the puzzle there right now. It's just not being executed on as well as it could be. It is in some areas. Like go to Osu and tell me that Ghana is not like really coming up fast. I mean, you can see it in these select areas, but the issue is what do we do to bring it to the entire area? They've got to build more houses. They've got to build the roads so that people can engage in trade. I would think if we're talking so much about business dealings with the Western world, and this is always the conversation. How do we deal with China? Do we deal with America? Do we deal with Europe? How do we? There really isn't as much of a discussion on intra-African trade, which is what I think the conversation needs to be. So, for instance, why aren't we talking right now about an intra-African passport system or an intra-African visa like the European Union has? And China, by the way, China is not just, it was never one country, it was 23
Now,
countries.
yeah, you're right.
They were united.
Yeah.
And so they operate as different provinces. So, really, I mean, if we're talking about the trade aspect within individual African countries, the trade discussion doesn't necessarily need to be, and the investor discussion doesn't need to be Western African relationships. It could be intra-African. Why are we not doing more business with Malawi? I mean, realistically, right?
Okay.
Why isn't our cocoa being processed and exported to Malawi before it goes to Switzerland?
Switzerland.
Yeah, why we have mutual need for resources with Kenya. We can do these exchanges. We don't need to involve the Western world. We really don't. If we keep things intra-African, I think that is another factor that would greatly improve our standard of living for everyone. It's already good for the well-to-do. I've already said that. If you're well-to-do,
That's
Africa is
fantastic.
already better. But let's talk about the general population.
Yeah.
Intra-African trade and protecting our value chain is what's going to make it better for everyone that we see when we're throughout, even in the suburban and rural areas.
Right, right. I appreciate that explanation. But you see, a lot of people are saying it seems the Royce team seem to be, I mean, fair. They play on a fair games or fair play, a fair field. Let me ask you this. I don't want to do politics. I just don't want to get into the African or Ghanaian typical politics. But I just want to ask you, like your fair opinion. Do you foresee the Western country or the upper hand countries control the African politicians?
All they do right now, 100%. Absolutely, they control the African politicians. I can say that.
Okay.
Um, I mean, right down from my office.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna call out exact names.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, African leaders that have countries. I have a real estate company,
All
right? I
right.
know this. They have
Mm-hmm.
houses there. Over
Mm-hmm.
here is Silver Spring. I know that a certain country that may rhyme with Benin,
Mm-hmm.
their whole family has multiple houses up and down there. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, obviously, there something happened so that they could have large mansions just outside of Washington D.C. That much is obvious. It really, I mean, some people are asking like this question here: are the leaders not aware of these issues? Um, I think that they are, but you have to understand there's a structural issue sometimes, and I'm not again not calling individuals out here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
not just the African leader that is forced down this path. It's
Mm-hmm.
ministers, it's deputy ministers. There's a lot of people who are kind of controlled by the West. I think I've shown you like one of my videos. I talked about
Yeah.
Kenya,
Yeah.
where every single person just about who's in the Kenyan government at the executive branch and in the banking system has either worked for the UN, the World Bank, or the IMF.
Whoa.
You can look at their CVs. Every single
Uh-huh.
one has background there.
Yeah. Right, right. So, okay, so, folks, you can also send your questions and I'll read it for you. And then I just want to pick well, maybe five persons and five people. You're going to come here, and then maybe if you have a simple question, you just ask a question. If you want to explain something, I mean, a lot of people watch your videos and they always talk about you. So, I mean, I think it will be a nice place for people to have interaction with the Royce team here. So
Yeah.
you can send a request and I'll pick you up. So if you have anything to ask him, you have the chance here. So you can send your request as we are also having a simple conversation that borders on Africans development. So the team, let me ask you this. Uh, it's been not so long the West Africa decided to have a certain currency called echo. And as
Mhm.
we are talking, we are explaining it about the Western influence, which nobody knows who did not want that. Do you think the African continent, need one certain unique currency like the European euro?
No, I don't. I think that there needs to be a currency for intra-African trade. I do believe that there should be some set currency system which is commodity based to allow for easier intra-African trade. I believe that. Does But would it make sense for Ghana right now to have its monetary policy based on the needs of Nigeria? That's where my question would be, and I think that would have a tendency to lead to some conflict because if Nigeria was to say, for instance, say, hey, I need to expand the monetary supply to meet my budgetary needs, that's going to create a lot of tension. So at this point, I would say a full-on Pan-African currency, I think may cause more trouble in the short term. I think long term that will happen. So just so you
Okay.
guys know, I think long term that is what's going to happen. In short term, what I believe is achievable is a Pan-African currency specifically for intra-African trade, so that they don't have to use the U.S. dollar, rubles, euros, yuan. I don't want them to use that as the reserve currency. I want the currency for trade to be African.
All right, right. Okay, so let me go ahead. Somebody have joined us, but there's a question down here. Andrew saying, "What are the growth pathways available to Ghana?" Can you answer the question? That question,
No,
like,
no, absolutely, absolutely. The growth path right now is, and I'm going to start with the sort of, it's almost becoming a cliche, and I keep saying it over again. It's just value added activities. It doesn't. So what value added activities means is that we are taking a raw resources or raw components and creating something where the sum is greater than the value. So it's the easiest, lowest lying fruit to creating a strong economy. So what happens when we do value added activity is it that pushes money into every other field. So it pushes it into hospitality, it pushes it into commerce, um, everything from high African fashion to goods and services. to everything, but everything is powered by how much manufacturing is pushed into it. Other growth activities, I mean, they're already doing this is with tourism. Tourism is a great low-lying fruit because it brings in investors and it just brings in money. We've gone from, we were at like, back in the 2010s, we were at like 40,000 tourist visas a year. It was ridiculously low. And we're looking at cracking 2 million per year soon. So if I was to compliment the current administration without getting too much into the other politics, one area where I could say unequivocally they've done the right thing has been with the growth in the tourism industry.
Right, right. Okay, so now let's speak this another guest here, Kobe. Kobe, welcome to the Reason Show, Kobe.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, you're
I hope
welcome.
everyone is fine. Yeah, okay. So pertaining to all that you guys were saying, I just wanted to share this little thing that I have, and I call it the shackle. Okay, the shackle. All that the two of you just discussed is perfectly right. Okay, but the main question here is this. It seems like the Western world relies mostly on Africa. In fact, the entire world relies on Africa. So do you think they are ready to lose that kind of dependency on Africa resources for us to be able to have all that you're talking about? Let's say the intra-African trade that you're talking about, our cocoa being processed and then sent to Zimbabwe or Chad or South Africa before getting to Switzerland. Do you think Switzerland is ready to lose that over 60 to $200 billion trade first before getting it? Are they ready to leave that power?
Okay, that's a nice question. So let's hear from him. That's a nice question. Royce, let's hear you.
Yeah.
The answer is no, absolutely not. But we want to set, they're going to fight like all hell to keep the current system going. Of course they are.
Yes. Yes. And sorry, I want to come in with the, you made mention of one currency for Africa. Okay. Now, I think the reason why Gaddafi had that kind of attack coming from the West has to do with the fact that he wanted us to have that currency being backed by our gold and not by the US dollar. And the West were not happy with that one. And that's why they went all out for him. Okay. So I don't think if it comes to Ghana here, we are ready for whatever that we are, the kind of freedom that we are talking about, the kind of development that we want. It's not that we don't have the knowledge, it's not that we don't have the power to do it, but it's due to a shackle that is on us.
Okay.
And on
so I think you Kobe, let's do this way. Question,
okay.
And then the question that you want him to answer, then you also flow with your experience.
Okay.
So if it's a question, drop it the question for him. Yeah, and then
yes. So my question is this. Could there be a level that the West is ready to meet us, Africa, that we exchange equally? They allow us to also develop to a level that we also give them the resources, rather than just keep us at the lowest point that we are currently, whilst they keep taking all our resources. It's a question.
Okay, to answer that, so I want to answer this for two parties. So for the regular Western persons, so for the regular Western person, I believe that they benefit greatly from a developed Africa. You have more places. You suddenly have a new market to sell all of your goods and services to. We all benefit. Every regular person benefits from a developed Africa. However, entrenched business interests, so for instance, like the cocoa industry is a perfect example of that. They benefit from the exploitation of Africa. Does it matter to me whether my chocolate is made in Switzerland or it's made in Ghana? As a consumer, it doesn't, except that I think that Ghana makes better chocolate, to be frank with you. But it doesn't make a difference. In fact, I benefit if Ghana makes it domestically and it's at a lower cost because it doesn't have to be shipped around the world. That's a good thing for me. The issue is overcoming the entrenched business interests. Now, as far as he's kind of getting at a sticky subject, which is what happened to Gaddafi, I happen to agree with Kobe's viewpoint in there that was a hit job that was done by the Western world. I don't believe that they would be able to use the same tactics again because now we know about them. We know that they will use social media and they will use actors on the ground. I don't think that African leaders quite realized how that game was played at the time. But I believe at this point, the African leaders aren't stupid. I mean, they may give in to the West, they may look after their own pocketbooks, but none of them want to end up in that situation. And they have all analyzed that in a great deal of depth. And so I do believe that there will come a time for a Pan-African currency that is utilized for intra-African trade. I don't know that's right now, but I think as soon as it happens, it'll be to the benefit of all 54 nations.
Right. Kobe, are you there? Kobe?
Yes, I'm here.
So did you hear from him?
Oh yeah, and he gave a vivid answer, and I really like that. But I want to know, in as much as they are exploiting us, could that be that they will even come down here and help us improve on these resources, especially let's say the cocoa? You have better machineries, you have better equipment, you have people who know much about agricultural stuff. Why don't you bring them here to increase the production? So as the more you have, at least we can also get more. But currently, you being Ghana, you know what the situation has to do with these Galamsey people destroying some farmlands, especially cocoa lands, because they think they are not making any amount of money from it, whilst the industry is over $1 billion. So they are just giving out the cocoa lands to miners, gold miners, just to mine and get something from it. So why don't the West bring in more machineries to help us develop the cocoa industry into a more bigger one than the current, and then churn out much more tonnage?
Right. Let's hear you. Let's hear you about this.
So, I mean, I wouldn't imagine that the established Western companies would want to facilitate the destruction of their own business when they've got a good thing going.
I mean,
Now, for but in terms of consultants and individual chocolate manufacturers, this has happened. The Oberhini Chocolate Companies, which was formed in the 1990s in Ghana, they are still working with confectionaries to improve their production. It really is a matter of the total logistical line being established. We already are making the chocolate. We're already making it. We're already very efficient at it. There are some rooms for improvement, but right now the bottleneck is not our production abilities so much as it's our distribution abilities. And that's something that the chocolate industry is working on very hard in Ghana. It takes some time. Bear in mind, we've got shelf space that we've got to compete for against people who've occupied that shelf space for 100 years. It's a big ask. And also, to be fair, again, they don't make chocolate necessarily like we would make it in Ghana. They make they use a ton of artificial sweeteners. They do a whole bunch of tricks to make it more tasty. We give very pure chocolate out. And if you're a chocolate connoisseur, you love Ghana chocolate. But for the mass production stuff, they're willing to cut every single corner to maintain their space. So again, to summarize, I think that we're going to be doing fine in terms of chocolate manufacturing. Our bottleneck is distribution.
Right. So, Kobe, stay there. Let me take this question from down here. Andrew said, I think most of our problems are self-inflicted than external. Ross, do you believe that? So, like, we created a lot of problems for ourselves?
It's okay. So I would say with this, because I don't want to sit there and blame Ghana for stuff that has happened from the West.
However, let's be fair.
However, it's if we were in a boxing match, to continue the analogy, you already know the person's going to hit at you. It's just a question of how you're going to defend and fight back for it. And so, insofar as Ghana has allowed certain forms of exploitation to continue without the major pushback, I do think, hey, you can blame Ghana for that. If someone's getting exploited, at a certain point, you can't just sit there and say, oh, I'm being exploited. You have to say, hey, no, it's our fault for letting this continue. Let's put a stop to it. But that doesn't alleviate what the West is doing. I think what the West is doing is wrong on a moral level, but you can't expect them to suddenly become good guys overnight. So it has to become something that you take for yourself that, hey, this is our country. We're not going to allow exploitation to occur. We're going to put a stop to that. We're going to put a stop to Western influence that is negative, and we'll embrace some positive stuff.
Right. Okay. So let me pick the next question from Red Soko. Red, are you there? Hello, Red. Okay, Red is not there. Let me take Asmanic. Asmanic, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is that Red?
Yes.
Okay, so the team is here. The Ross team is here. Do you have any question for him?
Yes, I do. I actually really like you a lot, and thank you for promoting Ghana. I really appreciate it. My question is about entertainment. Do you think if we better our entertainment, it will add more value to Ghana's economy?
That's an outstanding question, and I'm actually able to answer this one. So, one of my friends is in the entertainment industry, Boris Kojo. Some of you guys know that he runs the Full Circle Economic
Yeah.
Conference, and he's been instrumental for some of the tax credits that have been given that are going to foster bringing the entertainment industry to Ghana in a way that would challenge Nollywood and in many ways Hollywood.
Right.
The mindset right now among the established Hollywood actors, particularly those of African descent, is they don't like really what's going on right now. You've seen the stuff with P. Diddy and the
Right.
way that oftentimes they make a caricature out of black individuals in Hollywood. They basically make a minstrel show out of it. So they want to have a lot more autonomy, and they want to make movies their own way. Now, movies are difficult to put together. It takes a lot of infrastructure, so it's going to take time. One of the reasons I think that the entertainment industry, and I think that the government believes the entertainment industry is going to be so key to Ghana for promoting, for controlling the cultural side of things, as well as financially, is that, and this will surprise maybe some people, maybe not, but there are more screens in Africa. This is an industry term. There's more screens in Africa than anywhere else in the world. And what is a screen? Well, a screen is that thing that you're holding, phone. There are more people who are able to consume content in Africa than just about anywhere else in the world. So why should they be consuming Western content? Why not African content? That's the mindset and the philosophy. In the past, so we have in Africa overall, we have 1,500 movie theaters, I believe is at last count, 1,500 movie theaters. And so we were very much overlooked in terms of the entertainment industry. No one wants to invest in African movies for the 1,500 screens. Like, why would you do that? However, if we're talking about 1 billion screens, now we have an audience. Now we have a reason to develop entertainment. So really the opportunity for Africa to develop entertainment has only been here for 5 to 10 years, and we're already taking steps to break tax credits and to bring the entertainment industry directly to Ghana. We think that we can do it better than Nigeria. We think it. We'll see. I think we can. I think we can do it better than Nigeria, but we'll see how we go.
Right.
I really do think we could, and we have the potential, because I myself, that's the reason why I came to America, to study and bring it back home.
Okay.
So I think some of the potentials that we have very good stories that we could elaborate on, right? Like our culture and some of the history and some of the things that really happen in Ghana. If we could start from there, and then like someone like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I have not seen one movie, even a crappy movie, came out of his life and his story and how he gained independence from Ghana. We have someone like Ya Asantewaa, our chief priest alone, even able to give us like our entertainment standard, even more than the Nigerians. What I am seeing where we are lacking is we are not putting much effort. We are making so many excuses. We used to have really good movies. We really do. But we allow things to play out and left things behind. And then the Nigerians took over. So that's what I think, if we can come together, or people who have studied abroad just like me, come back home and then bring what they've studied home and we unite, I think we can get it to where we want to be. And we can be even better than the Nigerians, because if we can come up with authentic authentic story, actually Hollywood will buy it.
Right.
So I don't think I would just give you some pushback on this because I don't think we should worry too much about whether or not Hollywood should buy it.
Okay.
Because if Hollywood goes to buy it, you can guarantee that they're going to undermine the story and the authenticity of it, just like they've done to other industries or other genres of film. We had I can say back in January I ran a tour through Ghana. It was a VIP tour.
Okay.
And I can say we had over 20 people from Hollywood who are looking to purchase, kind of like in the Abri area.
Yeah.
I think that they wouldn't be looking there. They're in the entertainment industry, right? They would not be spending time with me going around there if they did not see the opportunities that you and I are seeing right now. So, and I would, the only place I'd give you pushback is the idea that we need to necessarily affiliate ourselves with Hollywood or Western distributors. I think the way we maintain the wealth and we grow is by keeping everything in house and keeping everything intra-African, so that we control our stories, we're able to reinvest, and we are not beholden to financiers half a world away.
Right.
So what are some of the things that we could do? Because we know that if African money alone may not go too far, but the West is also interested in our culture. And whenever we have like festivals or anything that interests them, especially December, you see how much people want to come and then have fun.
Everyone's there. December, of course.
Yeah, ease off the stress from the West. They are coming in with the money. So if we have better entertainment, things that we can draw them in, that is actually bringing the money and also making the West interested in what we are doing. And the goal is, the way we are able to come and then live in abroad, we can also encourage the West that, hey, Africa is wonderful. You can come and live here and find, a wonderful life.
Right.
No disagreement from me.
Right. I also agree with that. So stay there. Let me pick the next person. Maybe they have got YB Dankwa, YB Akwaba.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. The roast team is here. I mean, let me hear from if you have any question for him.
Yeah, I have a question, a couple of questions for you. I just chanced on the fact that when you were speaking in terms of cocoa production, that is in chocolate, do you think that it is very important for the government to also have maybe farms of its own, that is cocoa farms of its own, like acres or hectares, that will be able to beef up in terms of cocoa production, and that is the metric or the tons that is needed to be produced. Because I know that in other countries that highly rely on maybe cashew and also with palm nut, the government actually also have some hectares of land aside with private entities, companies that also beef up. Do you think that it is much more important for the government to be looking at these things rather than depending on syndicated loans?
Right. So, in other words, to have greater government involvement in terms of the actual production of the cocoa, pros and cons to that. I think the government does have to take an active role in protecting the farmers and the price of cocoa to prevent any kind of shocks from putting companies out of business, because that can happen on the world market. There are going to be times when there's demand will fall. The government had been heavily involved with the cocoa industry. I mean, that was one of their major industries for three, four decades. They had to have a degree of divestiture because of an IMF loan package back in the 2000s. There was a degree of divestiture, which I think put back cocoa production quite a bit. I don't have any objections to the government having some involvement as long as they are not overly controlling the market and they're still leaving room for private Ghanaian companies to invest without undermining them.
Right. So why we do have any follow-up questions, or I'll go to the next person?
Yeah, on the follow-up questions, you know that in Ghana, the the cashew business, and also in terms of the cocoa business. I've seen that there's much indication which is actually given to the cocoa business comparatively to the cashew business. But I know a lot of countries, and I've met with a lot of investors from Vietnam and also in India, where they are making so much money from cashew production and also the cashew liquid. Don't you think that is high time that the government is also actually paying high attention to the cashew sector? Just like when you go to Vietnam, it's a very high thing that rates in a lot of money. Don't you think that one can also be at par in terms of its economy comparatively to the cocoa, while also protecting the farmers?
Okay. Yeah, I think I understood the question here. Is a little bit muted, but if I misunderstand your question, I apologize for this. However, I believe that the question is, to what is the degree the government should be involved in the production, given that there's overseas investors who would be purchasing this land and operating. Ideally, I'd prefer, if I was just looking at the economy, ideally, I'd like to see the citizens being in control of the natural resources and the raw resources like cocoa. In the absence of that being feasible for any economic reasons, it's okay for the government to have that control. The worst case scenario for me is that if international companies are purchasing up the right to do or to develop these raw resources, because then that's the type of exploitation that we were talking about in the beginning of this podcast, where if a person is just simply a foreign investor and they're manufacturing the cocoa and their job is, there's a lot of tight regulations in cocoa, but and I'll have to go in just a second here. We have another meeting, but just to finish up the answer to him.
Right.
Again, it's if the foreign investor is only leading to export of the raw resources instead of value-added activities, that's something that the government should step in. I would much rather the government control all the cocoa as long as it allowed for the manufacturing to be domestic. The ideal situation is that it's Ghanaians, private businesses, powering the local community, no room for government corruption. They're running their fields and they're making chocolate. That would be the ideal situation for me.
Right.
But the government should step in if, in the absence of doing so, it's foreign investors. So.
Right. Okay, so folks, we got to leave him. The man want to go to join another meeting, so we will appreciate his time, and then we'll thank you. Rose, thank you for your time, and then we're going to continue another time. The people want to hear from you a lot, so as we're going on, we will talk to you another time.
Well, you have an amazing channel. I hope everyone who's in the audience has already subscribed to you. I love your content. I love the messages you're putting out there.
Right.
And I look forward to seeing you guys soon, okay?
Yeah. So I'll see you another time. Thank you. So so change no some kawasuma. So you try say every time or I seem say promote to Ghana. And then I decided to bring him on board to ask him his experience in Ghana. And then again, there will need some of the things that he know that we don't know. He's here to tell us. So and then we are didn't come over. So I mean, the who say the most important thing is or say we need to promote ourselves. In fact, we're not a foreigner. Or say the African, the black people, the young people must promote ourselves. We shouldn't wait for the Western media. That's another pointer. It seems that most of the people they are telling the young people to be aware. So the Western have their own strategy when it comes to the media propaganda. In fact, or can it be say can say the people out there, the Western countries, and they are not going to leave you when you don't strike up. And they use their term push back. In America, every country they use push back means you need to rise up and defend your country at all costs. So I mean, where Brunei or in fact, or not there's money in the country. And one of the questions I mean, say, in fact, say, there's no roads, bad roads, and these systems or whatever. Also, no, if you want to check to get money, check gas station. Gas station but there's a lot of money I ever pump gas as well. I mean, and also we say reconsider now. In fact, if you want to do something for some special talent, don't always focus on the system. Try to do, maybe you can still do something, and then one day, even though it's hard when there's no system. Well, I mean, you will suffer. But still, you have to do what you want to do. So, I think the academy jam and I'll 30 minutes, but you're not an achekakra. And Kobe, oh, my mean, say, maybe I'd read to the friend from near.
Yeah, Charlie. No kind idea, no crack, but one say, yeah, my woman, no crack air. No crack air, and on also so no, on where Tennessie who said on one Crawford. Would one more near and yet the Ampia or Munjao.
Debbie,
and yes, yeah, as anti for you was same year, can say one count to why you were born. Yeah, if whatever they are doing to us, we don't speak against it, we are not ready to go. But the case, or more can be a man. On one so yeah, I say sebi. Yeah, so much because you know they are holding from the head to some middle part of the government who make critical decisions as to the economy and everything pertaining to the country. You see, Bethany said an example, and you're correct. I'm just saying, and maybe. Bethany said, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, maybe. Or per se, yeah, something like we should do a more stringent effort to limit this mining concession leasing. But if or try here, there are other forces who buy these natural mineral resources from outside. They want more gold. So meaning we have to increase more production. And some of the production are in our natural reserves. It is a land minister no penny master licenses now. Those resources or those goals in those reserve forests no and back. So what do they have to do? They have to squeeze people higher than him to push him to allow that. And this is doing what? It's going to cause us to lose our natural reserve forests no. This is just an example. If we the citizens don't get up and start talking about these kind of issues, the leaders don't have much to say.
Right.
I'll use Kenya as an example. Omo will say the leaders are just making policies affect your leaders. No, it will just affect the people. From an external force, no, they are pushing those policies. Say, move forward before we give you a loan. So since the people rose up and then kick against that policies, no, say who say the people didn't want it. So then what? You said democracy. What the people say is what you have to work with. But when it comes to the case of Ghana, we the youth, yatiada cry, yatiada she fire home. Sebi. With the Mamicha home.
Comedy, no, say, power of the media. The media are not dominating the minds of the people. So it seems that we are not even aware. So, you're not aware. They are more aware than us. So foreigners are not aware than Ghanaians live in the country.
Sure, and here is you, bro. And here is you cry. And it seems like they are putting more effort in making sure that we don't become aware.
Yeah.
Don't become aware because. What person I've realized is this: when there is any critical national issue pertaining to the economy and popping up, be it corruption, be it any policy that will go against the people now, immediately they start releasing funny videos or people's issues, especially, and I do release some people who have like loud mouth.
Loudmouth people, loud mouth, so that they come in and then they change the narrative, and then it's
example, or not to just say but Ubewana be able to say if flash has made a basin, and we are come ask them, and we are come ask them, and we do
the diversional tactics,
They do just before the populace will realize no more passive policy maybe they can't go and do anything about it. So I think it's high time we, the people, just like the guy said, it's some kind of self-inflicted system, but it's an invisible wound, sir.
that is being inflicted by other people on us, and we can't do anything about it because we are not ready to do anything about it. That's the whole scenario.
Right. Come in how I'm not got down. Now, you are say swat in Casa now, swat ho.
Yeah,
I don't confirm Madame Bruni Basa or what goes on tap to Ghana pa. Let me some intentions and I think that meaning so tea in the air.
Man, join them on term there, but tea kakra.
Okay. Yeah, no, can ya if if you are come now, be our.
Oh, yeah, kakra tea there na kwaman, but me Ghana no. Yewo leaderships will be over. They are very greedy. Yeah, on my yes, I mean, greediness, nama sad na bro. Yeah, greediness.
No, almost your friend. Almost your friend.
Oh, unse like ye greedy nimpono, enka ye impose greediness no. It will be mine so. But with the ye ni ankasa ye mine muno.
Yeah, you try home. You try home.
Yes, Genial, yes, I did try home. Unse abrofo no omu greedy no.
Omu ko ya want this one omu dia bra omu dia be adwuma be di mo.
Yes. Omu ji ekuru bi ejapade de ama omu ma.
Omu nananom.
Omu nananom ti oye greedy kura na a lot of and ono ane nkofo mpo be support me because oje a ono nko a won di.
Oh yeah.
The support ne mind no. It is woba abeji good a oba ebe dada ebe ye beji se japade no no de abre ne mind ti de bia no ne mind for no air support no. Ba ye Ghana no say ne city pani na ade na sisu no. Ono fra na ekofa telephone afra brofo na mo ma ba se chale mi odi obi ma o. Da beje ko. No, I'm saying you can say and conform manipulate. Fair enough. But how the hell? So my ye near Jumaye. Ghana need to make creative product. Obi import to be aba. Instead say you have tax but to the or day bands and no the local naya tono. There be was meant to say because the airship wabano and no one the benefit womb. Ghana new production and cover the anti face your day ban. And unim almost greediness nintino. Eya na omusuru ubonse omusa pe backup every abrofo no. Okay. Mame ma scenario bi. Fan say edi na US Ghana be ma kwan say US for ebebie military base for Ghana. Okay. That military base na obebie in Ghana no. Omunye accountable to the Ghanaian people. David. Embassy for yes. It didn't, yeah. And why would the government of Ghana allow these things to happen? Because only say, even on one soldier Tiana, they have a US military backup somewhere closer. Oh, yeah. Why be down because a strategy. Yes. And it's all the greediness of our leaders. It's nema sa obre enuni miniare. Ghana youth on. The Ghana youth aye din na Christianity religion. Who say attain a man fall down. Money pana down. Money pana ye sorry to say, like describe on the timid. The book Nibekano, that is where we concentrate. Because if no religion, I know Biema Nagin Ado, I didn't say no. Ghana Japadi and Yin dia. Near you sebra better so no interest on the faculty. And can youth in the best for it, but you know, at taming it down. And those strategies near a brofono be imposed on us. Also, almost greediness, no, almost fendi, almost crown so. David, I say, woman to woman, the bravo, almost and I will lead Dana. And what's a one so general woman who knows you greedy. ɔnwene ne man no ho wobɛhu sɛ ɔno nso de ne ho akɔbɔ aborɔfo no na ɔfom gu n'account mu nti na wohwɛ yɛ man no mu a look at the politicians the amount of dollars a ɔmo hɔlede hyɛ ɔmo mpaase mesi eduru election na wohunu sika paa politicians ɛfa akɔhyɛ dɛm ɔmo distribute bɛkɔ obiara di bɔ ho bɛgye kɔyɛ campaign a onyam bɛhyew.
Right. Why? Okay, that's what maybe now also about you bisa say US military in Ghana. It's an agreement now. Who said the okay, omo do ma dwen bi omo di BT and for nti agreement in the as baby on person omo access nyina no the system but because of the criticisms in agreement enya so omo the full base abese I think say that was the current rundown now. Also about you
na me pacho
why
military bases na SWAT because military base in Ghana and sometimes the affiliation. Things said the American embassy more interest because in terms of these things what share it could be to send me there any incura cool ACC the women send a military bases in our but they allow these things to happen.
Which they can't do anything.
Yes, say the BBC or Ghana. You know, said the American embassy is actually going to look at it interest first. Because say NRA say they are air coso. American embassy are charging a lot of people from Lebanon. Even though more bases were honor, but more people are also because they know what is actually gonna happen. I don't see what I've also realized and I say indoctrination about political understanding it will move too much. It is an innocent youth. Now me sorry. Now I have an idea. Unlike Kenya, any other African countries, will be me sorry, then that person will start to see, identify things. Women defend political parties because mostly Europe will share a lot of other countries and they will always not defend political parties. They will defend their country. By Ghana, no, they will defend the political party ahead of the country.
And I think that will be interested. They train the people who train in Nippon for a certain level. Who brainwashing Nippon.
On say, I never say in every way, what you say, I did the government or apparatus, a religious uncle for no to make sure it's a big thing. But Ghana society union say we don't have experienced activists to keep on
pressing the issue now.
Because when you look at policy making, it starts with activism. If activists keep moving it and pushing it, that is when a chart say or more ethics, normally back from the sea level, then they discuss it to criticize. Like Ghana, you need that kind of activist. Yanka say Ubiam Pesobe because of time, Umani MPP and I saw Papaya. And the last year me make here me what I've realized and I say sometimes we learn religion. But to me I feel that it is extreme religion. Because if you look at every country, if you check Pew statistics, all these statistics, even America is one of the most religious countries in terms of Christianity. But it could be to say Saudi Arabia, no more very rich man, who has a huge population of religion. But they know that after the religion, there is something called work, something called development. There's something called what we can do for our nation. By it, you know, they're about to get too extremists in terms of our religious acceptance. It's the only patrono. Why you know what to say? Here they are, or no kwana, awesome corona, and that's awesome Yankopon. Rather than so, don't say at the end of the day, over some Yankopon, over class or over more. What you have to do next is so now okay. By you need that kind of passion to actually do that. we are always on the scare side of things. Say your cocoa, Indiana, a bear affecting around, bear affecting me, bear affecting me, kind of correct. Because I didn't mean when they say, ye, nana, oh, yeah, dear, to me, I dear, car. They say, to me, the
what is young company? Yes. I think that you're queer, once I am penny for the more to say, yeah, no, you said a direct training be. Not saying Benifuna and said as be at the America for China 4 years or more direct policy training the system. Then the ball is in our own court as a young people say you be creating young system when it comes to training ourselves.
Do you know the funny thing I say? The offer China as a case study. I always say that no country has been oppressed than China in terms of colonialism. China was being colonized by the Koreans, the Japanese, social history, the British, the Russians, the Americans. So how come from 2004 up to now, China is the second largest economy in the world?
I mean, this is a multi-million question, and when you check the colonial settings, the way the colonial shock, I think that you're shock on another day, yeah, shock on it, yeah.
Yeah, that's who. Yeah,
shock on another day, yeah, because once you're shock on, and it's here to the sense that you and
there's a story that was written some years ago, say when the masters, that the colonial masters, they were no more honor. And I'm saying that
the division is too much because we are too divided. I mean,
and you may be a honor wafa is some kind of the big you know. Colonial masters in the core and after you better be replaced here. Because it says if you buy now, yes, you almost few pot for one time and one is also be replacing. That is what we are also doing.
Okay, just mean for what Jacoba.
Opinion, ya more me so a calm Bluetooth means a mouth feedback.
As I said, I cry.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
I mean, yeah, me, Madame Brody, but I be promote to Ghana, Panayana, Miss Massa, as one get them on Yagiti, and I'm sure I saw meaning Comona, I mean, I want to tears and pass it, a Yagin pan or did, and Comona need, I mean, the beginning baby on TV do here.
We are more wrap up, but for some now, yeah, Mammy who be on Comono, a free band may be echo. Likewise, Bruni baby, beside say. Africans, yes, sorry, I say, more for the best, sir. Yenuma, Edokon, no matter what you mukru. And now, my need ye. To say, I'm a baby, I did not put in crew. Oh, you can not be fine on the idea. Not Cassina, don't know what still win ye. That's the question I say, my argument call. Say, yes, you will need be fire, be free a while. Or be fuck a crabby. Yet, the 5 years, you say a natural resource. Natural resource, the answer to be ponic to no the coy. Just a Cassiana or Ja over 100 years, and you need dinner still here, dear. It means there is a missing link. There is something missing somewhere, say, find out. But what you say, there is something I was say, you discover, you come and info, and you discover new one, the Kora, as a million market baby, obesity religion, obesity the way we are brought up, the entity, all of them are true. A cancer be a spread the right mama. One way I want you them what the part. If we ask you, if you don't sell yourself, you'll be sold. One ton, one a beton. When you say America, have no way. Your friend or child labor, a course as who would die. Who that? Oh, my country would die. On 20 morning, fan who die. They be under the positive ones, no one of a catcher. For example, I'm from your master, for an example. I was them going Nancy, because they are selling themselves, they are selling Ghana, but go for the attempt. And I was there, and what I call broche was go food him the friend exposure. 1 ton, or be ton. 1 ton, or be a ton out, ton will be who you are, said they are, you better. Because 1 ton will be a ton, but will be something wrong with exposure. sad no be akwa akosi there wo London no wanye wo ni kuro mu Ghana na wan kwai wa bontin so be dey hu no America for anya American movie amfa ma Ghana ma ya ton e be dey hu until say Reggie Rockstone the hip life eba Ghana no dey ye wo skuna hip hop na na esa because yekoto CD bia na ye Tupac money BIG money Jay-Z money na hu because they were selling themselves to us but what you don't want to hu until say ye ibu ba ye say ye to hu ye just anwum ni nyina tie and no cause me more current American rapper ba kokora ni kora minimum kokora 34 na minimum yeah 34 na minimum current one minimum bia because and ya sha say to ye hu on the field of music Bobby in theater no be akoton no festival because the feno lack of critical thinking ye lack as on mind tematem be mu atiche ene kuro be mu atiche no e be dey say mbotimi akomanim there are a lot of opportunities atwa ehu ahia but we are blindfolded tell me ya adwo negative ones and so negativity no nko aso it is a wo kuro ni mu a hu ade pa wo but the moment I be free e kuro ni mu no akọ amonone no afero wa sha ase ehu ade pa wo kuro ni eti said ye woti fie ne ye dwu bora woti bora no ho a wonte se bora ne bon na wona na soma se kwoto ade bra udu so na woti se say ye dwu bora ne bon sa na tie opportunity na twen wo hia ba because negativity na atwa ye ho hia nti ye hu opportunity na ewo mu no for example abranche bi ba Ghana se exchange program no ba yo deal obara se Ghana fo nkora mu ni mbo obopa o ohwe ba ku bi no enyo papa okroma bobobo and go back to US no organizing one or back and then Wabeti Academy. Can you America for a ball for mobile and Wabeti Academy offend the right to dream and Munia could soon every buy but yet one year answer way because they be one negative aspect of our life. You share the positive ones no tell me a negativity and I say a tracing your memory. It took American and Wabeti right to dream and all this call Ghana for and the younger say to you what the you want to be home. Make me am organ number chadi, and catch me colleagues are a punchy. Oh, yeah, cut away and ponchia. More won't crash in. I must say, Wopper that is what money and ponchy. And ponchy, say, I point you on here lunch. Or what bonja, what did you know about Wabeda? Or here dinner, or here breakfast, be a good idea, no Wabeda. Or be catchers or be a real invested or a conyan ponchy. But and the member free hack or Ghana, me yam preku, but also what the Ghana won't not go there on yam ponchy. And I point back where you say, Ukumasi ni akra ni sunyani. The boy as I point in ya more can also know them, or go to the end menu better. But what is about being a still go who sign Yans and all, a try wash by you. Bessie me share me corner and see I'm saying share mammy. Mammy Abraposo was also called doctors who are 90 years. Abron air ye banchi fool, or Besna aquape banchi. I would you head a quacodia, or quite where you be. No, so go back to Pechino number 2. There was a one auntie or Siana so you know Bobo Yam between Manduako. See Antenna Prague be chairman make us on for Mamma Metrianica. One mamma, Mamma Bro Apostle so or yeah fool. Mesako last year Jews Michelle Bako was so just 1,000 Ghana had their talk really side at their far perform Aquaco yeah fool before a kiss a man. Opportunity nature and wash by you. Miniam Dinachi, bra. Or call school or gas class will know where we in the masters or call Ghana or so farming and what do you banchi, what do you moko, what do you vegetables? But what you say? Well, who opportunity or chromono, but maybe at 20 years. Anything a feeding program, yes, free education or Ghana as a young infant feeding school feeding. Because opportunity nature and was young, you who is and grab it. And a Ghana out tinters, you are baby, a mea Miami Kakrami team, my Ghana Krebo. Ye no ade ni wiara go tu so na gu ade beche ko na fifi me ko e metin kuruma saa to se meba de bia metin kuruma ya sa se ya papa bra akwanto mam no ye woi me hu bode da me hu peda me hu tomatoes da eso bia o market the fridge ne blog a share bode da na wo eso bia o market ye hu eyi bode da so bia bode o market eso ye na bode atwa enwo hia no bode hu tumi ye din ye na mango du atwa enwo hia no mango timu ye din ye na asase papa atwa enwo hia no de bia anyo so boye din adentia because opportunity atwa enwo hia no ye hu ka baby efri kwa de ka Ghana kwa de ka ya SARS say city and say ka farm here the biggest opportunity my here ya the containers be fra brocha mani abafie na for containers na asa ko empty because ya adwene nya adwuma containers abafie nyina asa ko empty o hwini because ya adwene nya adwuma kire bia sisa boda gusu ba but yenya hwen fa because adwene ne nya adwuma ke ye ka asase papa ka West Africa ena ke wa asase papa o wiase
asemo
because ya adwene nya adwuma die dwi fa hwen ko oh yes ye dwi fa hwen ko container nya ko empty ni nyina be ko empty na yenya hwen fa nya ni ya de wika huru na ntwi achi ya de wika huru kwa ka huru ya minim protein wo ka huru mu ya wika huru yeah, minim protein wo
the ayo hey do de bibia ye de aye pa o hey
ka huru minim protein minim full nutrient ko ka huru mu de bia ya ka huru aka betimi ya de papa bia be ya sport yakọ ba ye timi nya hwe mese me na time any who say one of our problems in agriculture lack of storage facility besi na ye nya hwe fa ho etero be kono obi ya fu a wate wa cultivate fruits and other vegetables no so onya access ko de be kurum because ya adwene nya adwuma
ese na no
enyo go for power kurum
yeah cashew nut to call you was sampa why so mutimi ti cashew na cashew na tie na prokwa
bra my wife post to Kwankranza South minim kwanu si nyina from adwira kosi adwira nyame be kire wan brede wan minim sa kwanu si nyina won kwa cashew nya na wo ho tudu atimi cashew ni bidi obedo na atite gufo mutimi ti bidi na mo wi afa aba ne to timiduru amesesa ebubu seed no na de atonam de aduaba na mu de me de ko aduaba no mo fa nyo he no mo pay aduaba no ke betimi de aye what do you call it
juice
fruit juice fruit juice e dey fufro but ye omo farmer ne fa ho waso de bu aduaba no ne fa seed nto man keke ne fa yi ko onfa aduaba no ho because ya dwene nya adwuma kwasi boni ko mi hu banchida aso o cassava cookie banchi biscuit e wo kromo ano e fi abantatwa enwo hia ni bi because ya dwene nya adwuma de ya banchi akakuro eni nche me ko Ghana na nsia o sa breacher for machine di twa blocks pam no ye da so ye sa machine no because ya dwene nya adwuma to be ko akatachi akoto no twa block ba ko pe
o de he asantefo ne akanfo adi fufuo for century besi ne etimi design fufuo to different level
and China phone aye so much as say China phone o ma sha say fufu machine e dey break say go for the business and then aboche for so to blender and aboche for so to blender o mko fi o mo de blend o mu fufu ba yanka say dey etimi nya because ya dwene nya adwuma ti ene ubu block factory e blocks 10 20 40 if China e dey buy yeah dey etimi ya ba ko pam and who mean your carpenter for uncle your maye maybe a dear satuno a such a biadu to besi because you are doing yajuma maybe a dear satuno a such a biadu to see you are doing yajuma yankunya inside oh brand ko make it I've been observing them and they are inside you are getting you are doing yajuma inti da so 4056 na wiase agya hoko opportunity dey twa enwo hia o ba ye hunu because adwene ne nya adwuma na won say anya mahama na nya kufuado ya adwene ne nya adwuma
who can say so akoda no kasa na ya nkyerem na manyina bedi say so me ya nkyerem mi
asi ya nkyembra me no nyina ye kwose sabora so make tontura e de ye car without any formal education ye ko ba se kwose tontura o without formal education but any yet me fanya we this ye car pem o de ko magazine o me straight na ma but what you say kwasi broni akoda onu wan form tontura anya yo ko school e ko tie sa na so otima ye car by any the talent in boy no aye useless yeah ye car pa the car ko road
oh yeah
and fa so bia ni so maye
yeah
let ma fa anya hwe o mi ko school so wa bon ko ye visual art wa bon ko ye technical drawing wa bon ko ye vocational skill
am I yes o de wa bon e home accounts oba wa bon
what you say because ya adwene nya adwuma ya adwene nya adwuma inti nkofo edo ye problem service e okuro bia mu ye ho de look down upon them me no ma be we o car break crowd ko say yes break by 15 minutes obeju $50
adu sika se ya na utribo
15 minutes $50
na no me battery keke on fa tu ma mi yos mi bia mo wi hos no atete $40 kokotu ya tu keke na
me ko Ghana me car ko see fit them the whole day o wi no agye me 100 Ghana
just like $10
elu tell $7 because anyansa fu okurom no omudru middle school ya man krona ya we say these are the hot cake jobs e wokurom anum into ko ba bia wo ya middle school ya free course be career investigation ya man krona who opportunities e wokuronim ansa ko madru high school
yes
to ni say carpenter ya dwuma kase Fita ya adwuma kɛseɛ, beautician ya adwuma kɛseɛ. Into one sɛ ɔbɛkɔ America kora bank kora pɛ nipa sɛ ɔmo nya bi. Ɛfɔ nipa nya gu carpentry shop and fitting shop.
Cash flow businesses.
Yeah, ɔno sika no ɔno ɔmpɛ bank. Me no go school ya try say one of the problem in Ghana white collar job obi apɛ aban adwuma ayɛ obi apɛ office adwuma ayɛ besi na nya refa o you investing in skill job you investing.
Yeah, red over ya no red ya no red is over so
me wiase sie enti me ko fie project ameye me ba me so munya ngu honom because me ni hono kwasi asem nko na obeye
won be sa te am adwenyade kura wo be so be sa
me share me project na in the first floor me kwai na ye de efie ni makohwa akire
wow
enti ura me fie first na hu ye kitchen because contractor no oyare kakra bi bo no yare bo kakra bi no mukra plan kra no o mada ni fie no to ura my first na hu kitchen timete ho no bi ba me fie kra me hu no this am kitchen because adwene ni nya adwuma
sense embe
to opportunity dey twen won hye bebrebe enkofo mo sisi mo dan amomo but do not say kwasi abuofo nipa akoronfo nko a because adwene ni nya adwuma ya nwere kina to panyini ti me mam kasa nya tenti maduro ya me konti ye problem nyina no
your one say the oka no was say so sana adwene me that's kwa what your ban wa kana say what wa open wetie bia red studio
no I say
mami tell
me tie ni question but one thing I'm person can say yeah, like we should reduce the amount of like the way I bash down.
Okay.
For we are smart.
We are very smart,
yeah, very smart. The only thing is that we just lack a little bit of education, and I think the Obianya platform say instead of say beat our people down, we should rather educate.
Okay.
Say abroad na say when you have some knowledge be na ubetime useful knowledge no educate won crofo edu be kofa abrofo no Europeans Americans want so much you get it and yes so much there are certain things like omo ye wa ha Europeans for no they don't like
okay
you know say aye biti chise ofre oba we are kwasia no obi fu the friend kwasia obekwa kwa attack nipa
the common sense
get it so these are some of the things we have to like
okay
like bring it down a little bit
okay
we need to have discussions on how you develop your chrono
okay
believe say our people the majority of the time no when you see Ghana, you don't see a lot of things. You don't see the exposure or the opportunities at a worker until say what to find about abroad. They don't say, oh wow, we were lacking there. Okay, maybe I say unko fie, hey, ni nuanom, and you may be on why any more, bra. When you say, oh they atre anyway at the kabuma, a mouse say. Minimo. Who educating you? Okay, Brana mention.
Okay.
What I say?
Yeah.
What Barbara trainer so who say, oh, family you good what the end say? A quadrant soon I miss my faso abo buscano. I call Ghana. I call farmland hono. And for villages no more honey na. Only your mobile back. Now watch your more proper farming. Right? When you go to Toko Hana the way how they fertilizer the shame now ocean is say it's not a figure where you are trauma, it's a proof you've educated them. A year way picture what creative one I dream. What you say? And me funny say yeah education na abba from kakra and yes he was talking about say Ghana you were very good education and he's right. But what we are lacking is say we don't use like yen say yen true and poor pass and forget.
So they no be kind of say we need to start to change the education from the theory to the practical aspect. You know?
Right. Wow.
Be wise. Thank you.
No, instead of say yeah, use our words and stuff like that. We should rather use our knowledge to educate our people. Because meaning that Ghana, sometimes we can be very stubborn. But that means that what you're saying is not resonating. What you say? But it takes them some time, right? And maybe they say instead of us like looking at the negative side of things, we should start educating our people. So what what gaining any knowledge, anything at all, I will see would you YouTube or whatever it is, this platform, you need our knowledge to rather educate our
educate the people.
Exactly.
Now, what platform be I able to follow now?
I mean, when in your me a photographer, me yeah, beauty and fashion photography, and I'm a Bahansi to study video production.
Okay.
Who bet me follow me what I have say.
But for no was one who America on.
America.
Ti America was your photography. We are about Ghana for wealth creation, creating job opportunity. Mum follow no now and be a bit more idea when it comes to photography. Why? Because I work on there. What is more educated? Mr. will be following my wife. Mum follow now, Mum said more talent when it comes to the gadgets and phones on any machines, computers. Why? Photography. Why? Now, so returning to Ghana, industry be now per se, or the Ghana for.
So both Mimi want basically the entertainment, photography, video, nini entertainment.
Obviously, that you was the camera of the one we are maybe 2 years or about Ghana.
Oh, me say about Ghana several times. Me about Ghana. Me diane say sisi akra mato asase me pese me nsi studio e wo so.
Oh, nice. Impacting the people. Who person impacted the Ghanaian community?
Way guy way e say okay, Ghanaian film betimi better than Nigerian film because yenye wo authentic stories e wo Ghana. Say elaborate was so na ye tro na ye taking your time e shooting here. Hollywood will be interested in what we are doing.
Okay.
What else?
The reason for some mechanics
I swear to so asem so I hear about it you.
Mini about ni asema a wo kan nyina on say eye pa. But on say wo ka o say ma ye ma ye ni an ye ho ye mpanimfo no omu di aburo bi a hwenindi a wusia hwe enida ayi eda w'anim sɛ wo pɛ sɛ ɔkɔyɛ wan hwe ya obi bɛma wo nsa anaasɛ obi bɛma wabɛma bu one time we bi a watena hɔ wanya kakra a pɛ sɛ wodi kɔ fie mpo kɔyɛ business ana ɛkɔ establish biribi ɛma ebi a wopɛ enyuma de ma amanfoɔ no wan hwe ya license kɛkɛ de bɛma wo sɛ woyɛ Ghana ni yɛbɛma wo license sɛ bra na bɛyɛ adwuma na fa boa wo man no ɛno koraa no wanhwɛ a ɛkwan a ɛde wo bɛfa so no ɛbɛtumi abu abam ama adwuma no mpo no wo bɛfu bɛgyaeɛ. That is the kind of leaders that we have. Nti na obi nya biribi wɔ baabi a ɔmpɛ sɛ ɔbɛsan n'akyi ɛde aba biem no because obi ayɛ n'adwene sɛ obi company wɔ Ghana. Sika mpo a obi egye no back door no wama ne license no kra no ohwe company no kra sika obi besi mpo a enuru saa enti saa wani so adehunu a wowei na se wo ba Ghana na se saa bi si a mini aba wabamumu
meti wase it may be very easy adeba me wa ha say asase a meto no me nine so but me ye me research ye I should share say realtor bank or real estate company bank and no more credibility our Ghana me ye me research ye pa and I'm right Man, stop you whole. May any transaction I mean fan call realtor so directly. Me fa me busini, I can say, hey, me busini where you meet me at trusting. Ain't you know, a yedian, me per se won't call now for baby assassin away. Emma me busini no, any realtor no more call, you could baby assassin away. Me ya transaction dia, me fa ma realtor no, but me the man miniano. Na miniana, aqua deposit or bank or what approve. Na wasan send it at their wa transfer a mom a woman account. Omu ya no ma sending me receipt. So once the way I make that channel no. And yes, Ghana ni na say yo. Ghana ni na say. E bi mo wa omu di no kre. But abani yes, abani to meet na yeso. But there is a way out me handle things. Eye legit. Nkrofo ewo hwa omo beboa they will support your dream. And you know, we should never give up in things. And yes, I may face any hiccups. I face some hiccups. But the truth is, I never gave up because I believe in my people. And I believe if a change will come, so and yet how many heads? Near what America have done. I hear like how many times have you been beaten down? But you're sorry, as I'm calling
you. Mini aba unu say reason mami efa ayibi nchem kakra he sa one district one factory say one district one factory issue no unu say omo calling of private investors o do opa your investigations never say before say even one kasa wo ye Ghana ni o don ho kose o pese wo join me pa cha o motemenka
yeah
wo ye Ghana ni one kasa wo don ho kose o pese o join one district one factory na wo do obi anye investigations na mo hwe sika aban no mpo bejo just to come and join that one district one factory entino o hwe one district one factory sa ekoso a wo de o do ani ko hwe bia aye nkete individuals ka chese eya yenye investigation ni hunu de akomani minuaba asem na wo kan sa no enka wako watu kwanpo waba no anka wo pese wo beye bibi de boa wo man no ka wo se aban no mpo na se yempanimfo ne so wase
right
da wo ede few na nka wo de bi ba na obi adwuma ede ema amanfo nso nya bi ye no we de ente saa wo de kono afi no obema percentage minu abaye no o man nantintin afi no mo bema percentage a e wo se wutua because they think you are coming to make money for your own self, and this is the kind of leadership that we have. This is the greediness people we have,
bro. Yes, I may try one, Bema. And yes, I may try one cry, but now can one no cry. And the only solution that I am foreseeing right now in the near future is attitudinal change. The human resource of the country need an overhauling. I say you forget about the natural resources. All systems are made, created, or implemented by the human resources. If the human resources itself is corrupt, forget about any other resource that you bring on board, it will never work. So, how are we going to revamp the attitudinal change in all of these people? Yes, you can't train an old dog. You can't train an old dog. So, our focus have to go to the children. Yes. Now, if you watch something, since they know that that is the only place that we can change our attitude, look at the kind of education that they are bringing for the children. At first, okay, say BBF, if you are being Ghanaian school and JHS, you know where we have a topic, a subject called pre-tech and pre-voc.
Yeah.
Yes, there is one topic in it that I really, really love to this day. They call it design and create, or design and manufacture a device which will do so and so and so and so. And they'll give it to you as an homework. And then you go and come back and then do a nice design. You do your analysis and everything, and you come up with a nice design. Now, imagine if we have continued with this course from that JHS to SHS to university. Don't you think that we have this mental ability to of what? Seeing something, analyzing it, finding a solution to it, and then implementing it.
You're right.
Two, when it comes to discipline, they say we should do away with corporal punishment. We should do away with anything that has to do with punishment. Look at the way now the children are going. Look at the trajectory that all the kids are going. And nobody is holding anybody accountable. And this is the future. And instead of us to look at this thing critically, the whole money politics, the whole media grow. Now the kids are going to school like traffic lights, red, gold, green, free SHS. No, I'm not saying free SHS is bad, but everything that is free has a cost to pay. Now, let's focus on these children. From that JHS, Yamo Bianco cadet. That cadet, it gives you, it puts some fear of what you being behaving anyhow, because military training always has to be hard on you. It makes you become like an upright person. You don't joke with anything. You continue that to SS and then university. You are putting practical kind of everything that you do has to do with practicality. Even mathematics have to be practical. Science have to be practical. And then when it comes to everyday life, you are given a task as an individual to go and solve. Maybe, let's say you want your community, come up with a trouble, come up with a solution, and use that as your final year project. And then we'll pass you. When you are able to implement that thing for it to work, we'll pass you. But all of these things, we are neglecting them. All that we rather focus on is the entertainment aspect of it. And even in the entertainment, we are not even focusing on the production, just like Red School is doing. We are just focusing on the funny part. We are just focusing on the I don't want to use certain words. Okay, and that is all that we know. When it comes to the youth, all they know is, excuse my language, sex, drinking, going out. That's all they know. Meanwhile, when you go to other jurisdictions, when you go to China, a young boy is designing robotics. A young girl is doing calculators. What are we doing to our youth? That's where we should go if we want solution for all of this to stop. The corruption, the bribe, for now, it will not stop, because we, the adult, it's already in us. In fact, it has become a survival for us.
We can't do anything about this.
Yeah, we can.
No, see, only the America say we can't. Understand?
We keep saying
if you want to change the narrative, that's the China. The way China is starting here. Where did they start from? From the case. The Omuko school, education curriculum, and no almost sano. Dear you want some meet what's the educational system.
so.
Education is the key.
Yes.
Education is the key. No, it's a full sentence. It's a full sentence that we are not taking serious. Education is the key to what? All success in terms of your monetary, your human resource, natural resource. It is the key to the success of everything that you have to do. But when you say that, you say, hey, education is the key. And I buy now as a padlock now.
Yes.
Education is the key. The government have changed the lock. And then we joke about it, and then we allow it to sleep back. If we should take this thing very serious,
education na yenyaye no metimi aka say enye papa because eye papa we didn't get anything beneficial from that education na ekoye no.
I did.
Oh,
No, maybe
I did, but I did wrong. But
That was Ghana.
for them to allow you to implement it, no, those who didn't get it well or those who didn't understand it well, no, they are not allowing you to implement what you have learned. They won't allow you.
I think say no also na SWAT because
yes.
yeah, all calculators and say say in every country Diana, the right policies are from the top which trickles down. And then see, for even the right curriculum, because I've been in the teaching field before. For say we training college and say we implement work idea that you have or not. I'm going to tell you, so there's a system that is going to fight you seriously. I'm not going to joke. There's going to be a serious fight from a system.
For that one, there is true. The system itself will fight you.
The system will fight you boot for boot because at the end of the day, now, those that are supposed to make the changes, because look, if you look at the history of education, even in Europe here, you kind to see, say, from the European Union down to every country now, or much in such a way, say, it's very hard to say you go not in accordance with what the European Union have rather made. But here is in Ghana, say, a president will come, change it to 4 years, another will come, change it to 3 years, another will come, do it, this one will go, this one will come. Don't we think that that one is also having an effect? Because there's always going to be a difference gap, which we are playing politics with it. And then see, the see as some SWAT can say, in as much say we put out the education, that education, we need to make how we can educate a lot of people, but to implement it, they are the gatekeepers who are those who are supposed to make the policies. They are not allowing it because of the quality of it. Because they know that once we become more educated, more educated, you start to reason for yourself. You start to think for yourself. You start to approach all that stuff.
But say me twa mo no, but say ye nyina ye ka education school and I say the buy kasa mu adekire no. Say kasa adekire na, what do you mean? Because what that say na yesu say a bit can say the abrochire curriculum omo follow no the same as Ghana, but somehow no you benefited with with the knowledge, and I say with the education, and I say additional and benefited Ghana. So what can say education, and I say additional. Dear now,
Okay, in terms of addition, on say there are almost 3 forms of education, which is the formal way, the informal, and near what the non-formal. And say formal way means to say we go school now or branching into other forms of discipline. And an informal way to to say okwa kusian there maybe okusian maybe okwa couple tennis and as a phone. Na non-formal na kwa to say wo if na area okwa with maybe. But say in that aspect, we are all getting educated, and when it's greater, that is when you are going to be able to implement it much more higher. But here's the case: so by your that informal aspect, are rubbish and say in Basunica. And so it's a Kobe can say, see, Yamaya Baby, he said, dear, okay, in education, and answer will be a correct picture can not a listing, okay, mechanic, and a mechanical engineer, and as a tech with Kuma. Yes, in fact, what bonds in our quack. To an extent to say, even will be our no a vice presidency, see a crack, I say,
What should be the Ghana say? Then Ghana foundation. What should be the foundation education?
When you learn something in terms of economy, they start to tell you, say, now
What would you say is Ghana economy?
Okay.
You can say economy. What's your understanding of it?
Economy entails anything that goes on, especially in terms of what expenditure, the revenue aspects, and also in terms of, let me put in quote, policies that are looking for.
I mean, can't little theory. See, I can say economy. Economy in the grand sense of thinking is lacking. If you're lacking, what is the best result for you? So, what will be the best outcome? In fact, I said, yeah, okay, economy as I said, Tio. That's the real word. That's what the real meaning of economy is. Because in order to do anything of value, will be better if we assess so. What did the maker say? Inti yen about financial economy, and I said the term yena ubi adada yen my hantia bibia. So the my example anyway. So Ghana to yasia. Ghana is one of the importers of infant cocoa into the West, Belgium. Ghana is one of the lead, and I think it's Ivory Coast. Okay, no. So Ghana kase men shipumrel medua no, but in order say obey your best chocolate, what we are saying, obey factory no ha. Oh, that is the aspect of infant say, and I say the brainwasher, and I say the indoctrination of my activity. I must say I don't know for because. Bibia ye omobefa bibia free assassin so bibia bauxite o cocoa o salt o surisa o fomwisa o champon o rosewood o infanise the list is endless until omobefa saade no normal refined it unkuto normal refined saade no normal omoyeden omo painted the idea of refining wherever they do that with phones. The omoye side na no more than or mobile beton ma wo beam. Nti say a cancer problem let the home na entiasia keke and a Ghana here and as Africa here. Na ye changes are difference that ideology because a sense of equality keke and a koso because who be beneath say no who be beneath say utiwiase ukoye adwuma enye sika edi sika no ma omo because say one show matade one drive omo car one ko omo krum one ko da omo hotel one drink omo tea ni nyina akra wo gidi say unye nipa nti a sense of equality and say yen nipa wo bi asem say enye bibia is education that was say the say touchne obi timi tina bruchi ka say on the passport ni PhD attended no wo di Ghana onko ni adwene no tim ka bibisa ntimi medie no Ghana e wonyansa pa e wonyansa but there's a small construed a little bit a tiny sense of equality keke and in front say
that time you know them yen nyansa no
Debbie tie minia unim nyansa pa uye nipa wo na okra na ye nipa santi na otimi bedada wo tie unim se Ghana ni beda abonten de ne dan ama hoho unim sa that is you as a human being nti no de yen change sa de ne da but entiase de ese otimi te wo ho ase na yemfa ne se utimi change wo ho kakra enje se okoye nipa bone because wo nye nipa bone santi na ma bruni ba se say wo gya bibia gidi se wo de kra no enye no but wo na omubesua wo enya asa ade bia wo de yemfa UK high say royal yemfa the royal family ade bia omu hold you to represent omu power if you ho ade bia gold diamond bibia if you kro no so and omu represent is pound you see the word pound a weight ɛyɛ gold na mo de use create the word pound ɛyɛ wo ɔho nti ɛyɛ ntiase tie the difference ne sɛ yɛnsua yɛ ho wosua mo book wonim Queen Elizabeth wonim King James book wokankan wote hɔ kankan book no da biara Sunday but just say to wode saa book no to hɔ na akɔfa wo deɛ ɛwɔ hɔ o ɛnyɛ sɛ ɛni hɔ ɛda hɔ na ano otumfoɔ baa ha ɔbaa UK ha ɛkɔ museum sɛ ɔmo mfa yɛ artifact mmerɛ ane without us no ɔmo ni hɔ ɛyɛ nokorɛ but ɛyɛ nteaseɛ kɛkɛ na Ghanafoɔ ni anaasɛ Africafoɔ nteaseɛ because you say no uranium ɛsɔ kanea ɛwɔ ɛfrɛnsɛn Paris the whole of France ɛno sɔ kanea no ɛma ɔmo yɛ bibi a ɔmo kurom kama but baabi a wɔte Niger no kanea no bi ni hɔ ɔho nti ɛyɛ adwene nsesa kɛkɛ ɛna yɛmfa no sɛ bibini hia wɔ wiase no yɛnyɛ ɔmo education me donyame Ghana ni kasa sɛ ɛsɛ yɛ kuro ti sɛ China yɛ kuro ti sɛ aburukyire ɛyɛ na ebukura fu okura no wodidi wo atam okura unnim deɛ wobɛtuma yɛ no wiase ho a tap into your own sense of intelligence a unnim deɛ wobɛyɛ because ɛwɔ hɔ yɛmfa no sɛ dynasty baako bi mufri Mali the Dogon Dogon dynasty ɔmo anim star ɛwɔ wiem hɔ star is a serious it's called Sirius Star B ɛwɔ wiem hɔ telescope kɛseɛ na ano yɛ ahunu saa adeɛ no ba wo unim saa adeɛ no watwerɛ to hɔ watwerɛ da hɔ dada deɛ na ma wo hunu saa star no nti wo deɛ no nkenkan yɛ nti woyɛ Ghana ni woyɛ Africa ni abɛsna
nini afro ɔhu nimdeɛ a wɔyi na fane sɛ baabi a wote fane sɛ wote obi maa so with all this knowledge na sɛ enka unya panyin bi afro sɛ afro bra betena ha nefa saa nimdeɛ na awɔ no
Pabeboa.
Yeah, the boa will never boa my thank how be.
Ane, I say you
Yes, I'm not sincere who say sorry say kwa implement within one sacrifice so neighbor what sacrifice so would do sika and no be say kwa ya unnie bi na would not na ho say leader no be catch us maniskan sana saa de na wode ba no waye
na enye ne fault wa meniatie
meba he uni ye be ka se a tricks abrofu ni si ye nyina menne wo ye hu ni nyina but this I won't say enti me correct no
because we loyalty because meniatie 1 second I may answer that point in the first answer Mr. because loyalty no for sale santi na wonti minya bibia because wo sorry me sorry sisi a na se oba na catch us say oba mouse pound say a ebi obekum me that is the point
that
minya young kind of fact
correct me right yadi pemu bi atena ho anke wo se ono na bua me ye correct saa niema no
and then a 5% per tie miniatie bibia explanation and no almost the graduates the PhD holders of Ghana University are more from elite a 5% per out of 33 million people it's our 5% no omuna bibia deals cost assassin so nyina no and na ebesi omoso nti on say lithium na no ye fan lithium abesi nipa ba ko peso nti nipa ba ko na abesi ne so no on ne ka say ane mumbetu saa de no nkọ na mokoton na munya musika na mama me 13% nipa ba ko pe ne ye ka e make saa decision no nti se ba assassin na oteso na odi hwade o the big six da biti no de ti asemo odi me ka ba ko nkyeresi the big six no se ba ko ba e na edi usu se me boa
yeah
Kufuado ne papa
thank you okay Nti the same family, the same Kwame Nkrumah that saa ɛmfa ne sɛ na ɔmo settle no. Saa nipa na adi so. Saa nipa na ɛmfa ne sɛ Commonwealth and the British for control saa nipa 6 na no ma ana abedi so. Saa nipa no crew na edi so up to now. Nti yeah kano na ni bie keke we platform say is perfect because it me be a dialogue no we asma nti ase keke na Ghana for here untimi change sa asase ne da until say change ye ma ye kasa na nkra nte ye kan because panyin na wasai no omo say na adwene na efiri nkra no mo say na adwene up to now on okra opese wo say o kan ho but in order to dilute that see you start to kind of creature nkra the wa akra ne wa akra ne na wa yen akra no menka sentete here we yen akra no literally to take over the country now by the age of 18 that could take over the country but ni nyina no ehia panyimfo adwene and etimi change saa de no but panyimfo majority aside
right. Afro Janasuma Mina Yanko PT Bekabina Yabba sorry to see PT or PT.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
But me damasi. Me chechi am 24.
Right.
Asada ne den manyame. Kakra mpesa me kan say ye krono ye be diswa me bra in 24 mum make very very good statement. Ye be di ye krono so a. I just say yan ye di na sisi o na yan so ye say ye kasa kire ho.
Okay.
Problem is say we cause you be do no cray. We into me no cray. That is your biggest problem.
All right.
Maybe before your problem no. See na cause you be di ye ho no cray na ye di ye ho asi ho say ye man ye na pese ye ya o man na si ye so. Ye betumi abom ni aye ni yie. Wunsom na no eno na be ye adwuma te se ye ka prayer ho asem no prayer wo ka bom a na wotumi de pra. Wo ba ko a wo de pra nya yie. Nti ye no na se ye kasa kire ye ho. Nti ye ntumi blame ye. But blaming game is ye play blaming game na che. We see MPP, we see NDC. O man ye dia MPP ni NDC nyomo dia.
You are right.
Omo no dia politicians. Omo ye omo madwuma. And na ban bia ni so ni ho a oba ye for the benefit of the people. Aban bia America hey na oba ni bedi na dia obeye de boa ono ne political party. Ye de boa man no. It's ye onkophobia omo wo nchen a omo no moma njuma companies omo self onkophobia different company private sectors omo no mo si man. Yes. Enya aban na si man private sectors na si man. I don't know where we got the concept say aban ni ba na abesesa aban bi ntumi sisa hwema o. Ye no nkofo no ye no na yeti diaspora ye wo abroche ye na sese ye kan ya dwimbom London for Holland for Germany for Japan for Ghana for na ye kan ya dwimbom say ye fire plane ye call Ghana ho ye do ha ye say wo say kotsena bi a brown half wo say kofodia e bi so a wo so kumase say ni say no ye betre you to know ye be mo obi a handiwork say ni ye kekan ye hubom tanga kan ye chrom to you to know and say na be fi high school na won sa no adwuma wo bibi ye China. How when did China develop? I call 7 years or not a computer or between say computer ni because you are no. It's ye and to say ye no ye did be see who so say ye ni be macro na ye. Ye giant blaming game no. And your government net is on private sectors net is on. Papa be our do bank ye fool on what thing kola no. And you buying a buying needs hard time not better thing kola. A buying in your juma.
But government support me.
Government need support what they ban say or send signature say oh so no yes mutu me use oh yes say you na da no mutu mo fanya dem obeye
obeji usika
me pacho ye dey say ye problem ni say and say ye di aban no ye need aso say aban na be aban no ye di na ye need aso be si no e be bi edu
I don't want to say aban no ye forgetting na ye use
apostle Kojo example
say ye di aban ni si ye da aban e kasi aban ye need aso a ye nko ye nim
ye nko ba bia
we will never
and
achieve
without
nothing
aban no so ntimi ye
yes We will never achieve that. And I'm make us say, yeah, what diaspora no. Yeah, you will be, yeah, you be. Yeah, you be who be. Yeah, you what power no. Yeah, you be who. What is them go for the Baha ebe vote? They come here. I don't know what to do kwa mba be. What them go for they are doing political parties no. Akesi na kasa wa ha because we invested in those political parties for them to stand.
Oh.
Yes. I'm about Virginia, I'm about Chicago, no. They come here for our money, our investment.
So
our money is what is holding them.
All point is a more country. Come together.
We can build Ghana. We can build a country. Korea, China, no money cocoa. So see, more cocoa for they are the second largest. Yeah, apart from say number one, they are the second to be in place in the world. To when about Ghana, you better cocoa no your corner start here. If you are from Umbra, you share the way you bet me develop this idea way every year. Be about.
But more, do you think some more commitment in this knowledge now?
I project for you are blaming game. You need commitment. You are blaming game. You are busy. You are too busy. You are busy
because anybody chasing pound, chasing dollar. Self development. I want to develop. They will depress. They will depressed. How can these people go home and build a country?
I cannot make that about education. Say, no, we are agreeing on one thing. There is another person also over there who wants the exact same thing. 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it becomes what? A union.
It becomes a union.
The exact same thing over and over again. But we say other people will begin to join you.
Okay.
Right? That's part of the education we are talking about. Now say, hey, yeah, diaspora is near what we approach memono. And create some kind of power. You bet media alcohol. Money power can do a lot. Knowledge power can do a lot. Young educating and why Wena is our agenda and we are going for it. Ye pesi ensisa Ghana krono abayin to me nyehwe mayen. What I say?
Right.
So ye agenda, whether we are divided or whatever, if the agenda is leading us, and kwana ye bit me make a difference. And then abayin any other chance. Right? That's with what we are coming for. Because when we say we are coming as a force and we have power over him. What I say?
I bind the papa, but when say the one, I don't know, and yet young family say, they're not there to cater for us. Because the point in this, the word the governed, the omuna create a constitution, the omuna de abine ejina so protect investment. Who is the investment? Wouldn't pana on asase so no and asase no and emfa said the what asase ni mu a omu hia e survive ewo mu kuru so. In turn, normal exchange for currency. What did the maker say? Abine wo ho just in case a civilian say me sorry say you say tia di we so e person create community e kasa community so sense and then no say one year na omo ababa dey omo ababa kumu nti e kasa government na no is o de okaya Ghana ye protest na momo ye election we say omo chair America be chair Ghana Amocas. I don't know if you can.
Amocas, I'm saying at least 20 something or 30 something like that.
Okay, cool. No, that is to protect the interest of the government. The mujimia that Amocano ebe protect government no. Amine namasas ne nyamudia to protect the investment of the oppressor. Sorry to say.
Wow.
Inti ese tiase. Mahama na ebewene. But you say no, omo put in their bid for the oppressor to choose one for the interest of them. Dear course no, so tiase ya
So you don't waste your time on them. You rather find a way to I mean.
I say man tiasie, I say man kontokwa. I see a team pejaya ho. Me to Ghana say Ghana free and Toma. Me, I'm ready for that. Ghana free and Toma, which means we need to get rid of the administration. Now, yeah, we start to be
because I quite them at any interview. No, okay, or say mono microphone the omunya one some chance. Just a man push back. Or say microphone, no omunya some one chance be out. Is a one push back.
Otherwise, so be
yeah, push back. The any see pen for them. O president ne jaya dia idea gronya sa.
Idea gro. Because
yeah, bibia. And American diaspora, no, we can do more.
There be your problem. There be your problem because there's a misinformation and as a mislead, you know. In free Ghana, if free
outside in echo.
If free hand echo because Ghana ni oti na kura bi ase. Sorry okono fum kodona fuba etina tabubu bim. Bon. Emfane atakwa bim. Oni on ne diano no ne happiness no but how na sa ni be di indomie so one fan free ho anko a because all this hard ne kono o could change the sense of thinking
right
sis we introduce you at the phone actually no but in turn because of own be da no and no was so sad no afa ne say an e ade papa enye because yana yakwa yakoka our buchiri kwa cansem na de ote hoso a ono so lack of emphasis knowledge no so asum nti sa na yakoso as me eba Ghana mfere ntoma enya buchiri fo nyina na ka ho
nye edi hunti na ne oba buchiri you economic interest then hunti na oba buchiri
media na me need choice ma me na de ba haram ya akra.
Okay, so let me elaborate on something. Also, there were certain things that you didn't experience when you were in Ghana, but it was economic interest. Two, we wanted to educate ourselves and do something that we've never done before.
But hona me pesa yina tiase ne basa education na the nimne no te me can say be me can say in today's world you need the alternative to the norm. The norm no enya adwuma the norm na wonim education na the actual one na magana quite the way as it here. Nti say kasa education na meaning sometimes no I see it in TSS is more indoctrination than so be chrawade. The paper de emphasis the sense of what you ocean and so on what can I say? Also one pet world of people of thinkers. He wants people that wants work. We assume the abuche crampo sani yen or my yen say school na ko pajuma.
That's right.
That's the school.
I mean, it's a whole lot of stuff. I mean, well, individual perspective, you have to find a way to, to reinforce your thinking. Because system now, I mean, there's nothing causes the word the Nipa near gullible. There's nothing causes.
My brother, that's the word gullible.
That's nothing causes the when the majority of the people are so gullible and you can't even. It's like you can't even also force them to do something. In fact, unless people when you're intelligent do something,
they can't think out of their programming.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah. I mean,
make us say, me getting into Ghanaians, okay? But it starts from 1, and then you get 2, and then you get 3. It's a difficult job. But education doesn't mean say what it's not way book about now.
My memo admiration. Listen.
If I could finish with what I
read we are not welcome.
Hey, what acquire a bianisa make a choice and photography when I say my of photography. All right? But that didn't stop me there. I learn a lot. I am involving myself with other people who had that.
Which came first, passion? Which came first, passion or education?
The passion.
The passion. Thank you. That's a good answer.
And then
that's a great answer.
What I say? The passion was what get me to America.
To further your enlightenment.
Yeah, that drove me to educate myself. The passion that I have for not only me, but for my country. That is why when I went for the visa, I told them I'm coming here to study and bring it back home. Mikasano, they gave me the visa because of that. And I want to live by it. What I say?
The Queen, most of these our Ghanaian brothers, leaders, whatever politician you might call them, they do almost cancel them. They say, yeah, but when they go back to Ghana, they take these positions and then corruption becomes, the baptism shirt.
But Okuta, I heard an person more admission.
Ghana no emma na control corona emma have it
emma na corrupt emma na corrupt
majority of them
Uni mami de Ghana uni mami de friend Sicilia da pa no wa friend Sicilia na good dem
I know she
yes talk na clear ya clear so
Ghana no yebeya ye betu Ghana no ye da all of us bakukra ma bakukra but say ye do your crank ye nti obi krom ye do your croa and ye nti obi krom because we will sit in the west with them, we will sit in the mud with them, we will sit in their cries with them, we will sit in the tears with them. We are throwing stones on the field, and so we are making it work. You are right. Because everybody is throwing his own opinions, but that doesn't work. China for basic from Kron, Obia ko China, Obia or Kron, no, got the tree. No, say okay.
The so-called diaspora one,
oh, yeah, everybody.
Why ready? Why ready?
Ready there, you papa student.
Okay, that's all I mean, you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan set. It's like you going to war. You can't just say you need to make war. No. Now, do you see Ghana a war and I will go fight in a plan? Then I will go fight in a war.
Pacho, and yet war near Hakoku, and yan Tokani Hakoku. We are in contest. Blind say, okay, Mammy put it in contest. Say individuals, ye na ye kono, we are going to take sectors. That is what we have to do. In order for us to build a country back to in its right state, I say me kwa because okay, me kwa take aspect say me kwa farming. Farming no. Me kwa put anything I can put to develop the youth coming up as much as I can in the environment. And then we push ahead. Obi so ba, honestly say me so mabe take this other sector. Me so mabe share baby about maybe education system necessary because you know we are about to educate unless we educate them. Because in Fujonia Bako Bogo, many can I cast you over kind be I but say, who remunas or what's not hitting be. Now it's moving, Namo Konamo Banasa or Strom Namoya. They will pick it up.
And the whole point is
that is how we have to do it.
Individual way, or be able to a certain place.
Pick a certain groups, 4 groups. Pick a certain place. Then all of you push it with money. What to us then you push it with money. You push it. When you have your buying so if you have way so media so we are focused on one thing. Just product.
The last time we called China, we studied and that's what they say. Yeah, they forget the media. China media allowed.
Yes.
Don't forget to be there.
Because in the media, won't come and you. Kasa one of my Kasa. Kasa so infection ma.
PT. No, I really like what you're saying. Ebiane say o kase ye o papa say o failed no. Nya we very good at it. We establish wo ho. A beginning o kai say na me ka say. Mato asase. me babesi studio ni ni ekeka ho open a sound stage Wow, ni a started year production. Okay. Be new mukro. A bear first Ghana. Apart from South Africa, more sound stage, you know. Yang will be the next.
Okay. That's a big huge vision and audio.
Yes, now you me and you say you me or abrofo no mo best stop o mo kra ne they will encourage it. Me wa ha say. Many abrofo na hang out. They'll promote you and they help you out. Sometimes no, I think say we are underestimating we are still living in the old era.
Okay.
One thing what again, social media no, and it's about do Ghana no. If they wanted to prevent us from doing that, and can do it. What I say, and you know, on your own channel, I support him 100%. Obia what diaspora no, and ya also what acquire a broach memono. Fakofi kotas say any individual no, but we are going as a group. Say hey, ye kwako change system right? Ye kasi ye kwa abino so abino or best say ye plan. Into no Diane says,
sometimes be a car, Moka, Namo Debia, Mamma just only Nancy, Namu could money about demonstration, Gidia, they now will lead demonstrations and on them one. Oko pressure government would be a fans of American to go out a couple of no church now. Oh, correct, mystic now pressure to do the right thing. I know him for.
And also it's part of it, but sometimes no, and yet we are so
okay.
For you to get economic control, no. With your main friend, so obi to say Nana Kwame Bediako. One say, on also betna approach memu or ye niema one of the biggest houses. And when I find out, I was even shocked. In California, that guy owned it.
Yeah.
Or Tonye. And or the bar Ghana, and no bear establish here. And no wow. Nipa Krona or sponsor me say member has say. Also lived here. And I then Oko started business our Ghana. And then audit Ghana. And audit any business. Or hire uncle for. Now on yet. Nana Kwame yet. When so yet. When so now when so yet. Now yen diaspora no. Yeah by ye for the back. Only baby and gold wa.
Nana Michel, Jonathan Michel, Ibrahim Michel, yeah.
Oh, Tassa say no baby a gold no one, and now say baby a cocoa no one. At least you own some part of it. What I say, who establish? So majority of these machines here more can was no go and shed on your thing. And yes, say to me talk, ye bet me at talk. Sometimes yes, say by force no. I'm out for war, almost factories in Yakikan or Ghana. I buy not stop here. No.
Okay.
But we go in.
Men get involved with the abino now. Focus to say you want to build this with a clear vision. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, because we don't want to abino more. And baby,
if you can't beat them, just join them. On before some also why crop so on paper. Yes, sir.
And the best thing is say you come near Cassie. Hey, wait, me film and photography and I part. I can bring the the guns, the knowledge, the infrastructure, the equipment into my home country on a land I want to build and on a land that I want to establish. Not my my graduating from my friend say junior high school now me starting training on one. I am doing something. I am making a change. I'm bringing the change. So what you say?
Okay. Mama now say on na kawida me sorry na abiem dance wa ba niam na nka ba kwa minute. Abiem.
Uni ametia wo media tete emra na bring you know to na.
Ah wo ba we ya na ko ya na appointment nyina. Ah ntina me hu wana so ma me fo ansa na ma sorry so na enti o ka.
Kale me bo about so media na wo ye no anka at least emu bear 60% of you say Ghana for the social media no. Yeah the end ma believe say ya ade a ye problem nyama me no.
Okay.
And the indiscipline issue and the consciousness.
Okay.
When you conscious, you discipline. That is the only problem of man. Your problem, man.
Right.
Na nsɛm a yɛka ɛyɛ adeɛ bi a memani gye ho paa. Na mepatwɔ mpɛ sɛ mbusa red red wodi no mepatwɔ watry sɛ wobie business wɔ Ghana da watry bi saa da.
O say my try sɛ meyɛ business wɔ Ghana.
Yeah.
No.
I will see the kind of frustration I'll be coming.
I see another school or say here we hear school.
What's the problem now? You come on. I didn't hear and pay for the enabling environment too. And almost that kind of opportunity, almost chance. One can be crack do Ghana no crack one casa woo no. See, can I yet what Yamana could do port one? If you are about 2,000. 2,000 when yes can now Kwakochiano. Okay, I'm so bill now a costro, Yasan the Biaka. Almost missable Tajua, your favorite demorage. Almost pay we are found Yamana. Everything possible. And you know, so the wiki, almost 2 weeks, Baba can't want near, not the demorage are real Yamano. And if you wait Yamano, the problem now you won't know. Ghana for one kasa ya dwen yet the tikru a process we need mental reformation as they cry obia ye krofo nipa akra o ma wiase kro che yafum cry krofo onye obe wiawo enti sa business no obekwa akobie na ni management no ade e friend culture of maintenance culture of management that's the biggest issue in Ghana. Unia.
Baby, Ghana no me catch say and no be na say sa beginning meaning say utie na Americana. Me na class asase me wa how but before I met kono me ye research, okay? Me ye me research ye pa. One share and perform experience. You do not want to follow the old things now. I'm YouTube and for having bad experience in here, now, almost this. And now you want more educating for say, hey, this is the channel you have to go through. You were real estate agents, companies you can go through them. By law, no, hey, you were lawyer one thing. Lawyer no so obey them, protect me. What are some of the agreements?
Ghana ho. Sister, me pacho cry you woman no. Ye di bibi a friend in law. Krono wusi kaswa na udi bem. Unya asema, whom you know and what you have. Money
There is. Would you could Ghana could be bonny si and say law in ye man I say
bonino crane tea bonina where the nusika swa bonina na say bia esa would them be 10 years no unem 1 week be jaw.
Okay, America have practice and can you say and yes Trump on the number bonting and tanka so
Trump asema o Canada me fam mama hey tea otobo me pese be ye na argument we Alkali, the problem of woman no. Do you think that Africa as a Ghana and can never tune and go back with them?
Yeah, there's a possibility.
The same Trump, yeah, more back kaya. Now our campaign manager be a friend of Paul Manafort, or that's them. Or more yeah.
One of them.
So any part of Ghana can never tune. Sister, baby, or mano kano. Mama, ye like person man ye. And to be honest with you, America had no Ghana ye kakrabia. Ufia ko Ghana. Anything you see, anything you touch, anything you smell, ye sika. But how to transform Ghana is more than me do Ghana, me who Ghana to say more than paradise. Ghana to say I say a island to me. I saw Aqua Caribbean. But the problem is, Chrono, you are building Chrono in such a way, say, a favor or more than young citizen. Cry your woman, yet water your home, you promote our water your home, and yet tie your home chair, our home, and now say, and a dear, our woody, tell your Casaya home. South Chrono, bed them power move on.
And see, yeah, I see a change. I say a DNA. I see a change. I see a change.
Yeah, mental reformation. And yeah, question I know say a problem by your womb, a consciousness. When it comes to your environment, your woman, no, ordinary Ghanaian is not conscious to environment, no. Politics and a religion. Sanyama we are not conscious to Sanyama we. And your macro na your woman, Ghana no. At the end of life, we don't know, we don't understand, we don't value, we don't cherish. And if she the rate at which Yanka say destroy your home. Hey, yeah, so say a more life, Nipa life, in your life, in your life, the way is say Niama. Adia a conscious say you say so here. Nipa kwa here. It may need anyhow, may live anyhow, may sense us needs to anyhow. We are not conscious. And it's animal, yeah, where how can we move on?
So we have to see a chair, say a chair, your cost chair, what can be also chair, what chair, one
yeah, see, no time stage in a woman, and the next way, say,
yeah,
and say, baby, yeah.
I say education. Me wahano and wayo, nyame busi afkrano. I have to educate them on so many.
Fantastic.
Good. Everything. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I can do this. And to me, and you're easy. But I keep persisting. And then, me, back on one can say, be on your own business. On one can say, because it can be very frustrating, but I never gave up. What I say? Oh no, I say you back on Timmy Bravie. I say ye, I can say, get the respect. What you Bravie are there? And you're no fear, all my respect. Two, nakot na wa fear. Naka say, and challenge you, Anna. Or yet, keep your catch and say, hey, this was the best decision I have made. That's education. Right? Me am a menene yewe. Me educating or nyama bibro say hey patient. Wo idea or the no ma catch me company no. This is what we are doing. What I say? You are educating. Oh chum say hey, uye me say ebeye. Uye me say ebeye. Uye me say ebeye. What I say? And no oh can the more you're saying it, no one realizes oh, you are making some sense.
Right.
Education is the key to everything.
Okay, unim, my numbers home na my time was na yankwe bikaka, but I like your more contributions on the show. And actually, Baba, when your time I read, when your time I join why? Now, yeah, tough discussion about self-development and how we in but say about our own selves. Why? So, Abim, actually, when your time I join why?
Mate.
Mami na wase obi a wodan obi aso me da wase why and this is a reason show and in fact our time we logical reason and question and analysis so nya time na ya bra na yin nkomo why and your YouTube channel your video no beto no akohwe interview ne guy broni ne ye no no investor of Ghana wase sika of Ghana nti and then some of boss no me upload video na yes stream o YouTube the reason show na what in some work na wo dey atoto mo why me da mo nyina mo ase your friend mo dey share ba how the reason show you be share another time thank you.